Chapter 151. When Zhou Jie and the other two saw this, they had no choice but to jump up and climb some distance to avoid the undying three-headed dragon's wing sweep. However, this way they were even further away from the ground. The two wanted to go to the ground so that they could move more freely and meet up with the others. However, when Zhou Jie jumped up, he immediately changed his mind. He was alone anyway, and there were so many undying divine dragons below that he would just be looking for death if he followed them to the ground. He might as well go up. After making up his mind, Zhou Jie immediately used the force to continue climbing up, while the two slid to the left and separated from Zhou Jie. Zhou Jie thought that he might be able to escape like this, but the undying three-headed dragon suddenly flapped its wings and pounced on him, spitting out a breath of ice at him. Zhou Jie quickly sped up and fled. At the same time, he was puzzled. He had not been discovered by the undying three-headed dragon when he stole the purple crystal, so why did it leave the two behind to chase after him? On the other side, the two sensed that the undying three-headed dragon was chasing after Zhou Jie. They were overjoyed and sped to the left to slide to the edge of the lake. Zhou Jie did not have time to think too much. The undying three-headed dragon chased after him and spat out a few breaths, causing him to dodge awkwardly and almost get hit. He quickly focused on his escape route. Just like that, Zhou Jie returned to the wide mountain road and ran all the way down the mountain road. The undying three-headed dragon chased after him and attacked from time to time. However, the mountain road was not long. After only a few hundred meters, it became a steep path again. It was formed by the crack between the main peak and the side peak. Zhou Jie entered the path. The undying three-headed dragon's body was huge, but it could not enter. However, it still flew about 30 meters above Zhou Jie's head and followed him closely, occasionally opening its mouth to spit out a breath of ice. Zhou Jie had no choice but to continue fleeing down the mountain. He remembered that on his way up the mountain, he had seen a crevice in the mountain. It was very narrow and could only fit 4 to 5 people walking side by side. It was about 100 meters deep. If he could hide there, the three-headed dragon would not be able to do anything to him. After running for a few minutes, Zhou Jie finally found the canyon. Without thinking, he jumped down along the wall. The three-headed undying dragon was furious when it saw this. It swept its wing across the upper edge of the canyon, scraping off a piece of broken rock and crystal. However, it could not do anything to Zhou Jie, who had already jumped into the canyon. However, the three-headed undying dragon did not give up. Instead, it flew to the edge of the canyon and extended one of its heads into the canyon. Zhou Jie slid to the bottom of the canyon. The canyon was less than 100 meters long. Because it was formed by the crack of the mountain, the left and right were sealed. The only exit was at the top, but the three-headed undying dragon was at the top. Before it left, Zhou Jie would not be able to escape. The only good thing was that the three-headed undying dragon could not enter the canyon. Zhou Jie looked up at the three-headed undying dragon. The three-headed undying dragon was also looking at him with one of its eyes. After a few seconds, the three-headed undying dragon suddenly roared angrily. The sound was suppressed by the canyon, and Zhou Jie had to use the energy of the seal to protect his ears. It was not over yet. Following that, the three-headed undying dragon began to spit out a breath of ice that went straight for Zhou Jie's head. The canyon was too small, and there was no way to completely dodge it. Zhou Jie was affected by the frost breath, and even though he used his energy to resist it, he still felt a bone-piercing chill. This made him wonder if he would be frozen solid if he was directly hit by the frost breath. After a few consecutive breaths, the three-headed undying dragon's head seemed to be tired. So, it extended another head into the canyon and continued to spit. Zhou Jie was speechless. He could only try his best to dodge and defend. The energy of the seal on his forehead was constantly being depleted, and Zhou Jie began to worry. Suddenly, Zhou Jie had a flash of inspiration and summoned Kakashi. "Oh my God! Kakashi was eating potato chips and reading beauty magazines in the kaji, when he was suddenly teleported out by Zhou. Coincidentally, he was met with a breath of ice. He could not help but curse on the spot. "Oh my god, I'm freezing to death, Jocko, what's going on?" Kakashi was complaining when he raised his head to take a look. He was so scared that his face changed drastically and he shouted at Zhou. At this time, the three-headed undying dragon stopped its breath. Zhou quickly rushed over and grabbed Kakashi. He lifted him above his head and faced him. "Hey, Jocko, what are you doing?" "No, I'm going to kill you, help." Kakashi saw this and knew what Zhou was trying to do. He immediately screamed. He was even more of an actor than an actor. Zhou quickly stopped him. "Kakashi, listen to me." Before Zhou could finish his sentence, the three-headed undying dragon spat out another breath of ice. This time, it hit Kakashi's back, causing Kakashi to scream like a pig being slaughtered. "Ah, help, I'm freezing to death." Zhou's face darkened. He immediately asked loudly, "Aren't you a robot? Can't you turn off your senses?" Unexpectedly, Kakashi replied, "I'm an intelligent life form, not a robot. My senses are the same as a real person's, so I can't turn them off. It's just that there's a limit to my senses, so I won't faint like a normal person." "Alright then, hold on for a while and listen to me." Zhou heard this and said. When Kakashi heard Zhou's words, he quickly looked like he wanted to cry but had no tears. "Ah, Jocko, you big bad guy, I'm crying." Zhou ignored Kakashi's cries and changed his hand to hold Kakashi. He took out an energy amethyst from his space ring and held it in his other hand. Kakashi, who had been crying, immediately stopped when he saw the energy amethyst. Instead, he stared at the energy amethyst in Zhou's hand and asked Zhou in surprise, "Wow, Jocko, where did you get this? Can you absorb the energy in it?" Zhou did not answer Kakashi's question in this critical situation. Instead, he asked a question of his own. "Oh!" Kakashi could not help but scream again as the three-headed undying dragon spat out another breath of ice. Zhou quickly grabbed Kakashi with both hands to block the attack. He was only slightly affected by the ice breath and was unharmed by it. "Of course, Jocko, you want to give it to me?" When Kakashi heard that Zhou wanted to give him the energy amethyst, he immediately ignored the threat of the ice breath and said excitedly, "That's great. That's good. Use the laser to deal with the undying three-headed dragon. If you don't have enough energy, absorb the energy of this purple crystal," Zhou hurriedly said. At the same time, he stuffed the purple crystal into Kakashi's mouth. "Well said, well said. This thing is considered a good energy crystal even in the Holy Land. With it, I, Kakashi, am invincible." Kakashi received the energy amethyst and swallowed it in one gulp, then smiled proudly. However, Kakashi's proud smile did not last long before the three-headed undying dragon spat out another breath of ice. "Ah, again!" Kakashi could not help but scream. "I'm not happy. Watch my power," Kakashi said angrily after the scream. He then turned around in Zhou's hands and faced up. His eyes suddenly lit up and two blue beams of light shot out. Bayubiu! Although Kakashi's laser beams were not as powerful as a professional laser beam, they were not far off. Even a 9-star lord would not be able to resist them without being prepared. Although the three-headed undying dragon's defense was terrifying, when the laser beams hit its face, its scales were shattered, and its flesh was torn apart. Smoke rose from its face. Roar! The three-headed undying dragon roared in pain, but Kakashi's laser did not stop at all. In less than half a second, 2 more laser beams were fired, directly hitting the head of the three-headed undying dragon's nostrils. Bayubiu, Bayubiu! The laser beams kept shooting out, and the three-headed undying dragon's head was reduced to a bloody mess. In less than 5 seconds it pulled back, not daring to look at it again. Ha 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 ha! Kakashi could not help but laugh proudly when he saw this. He was so excited that his legs were rowing in the air. Zhou Jie was relieved when he saw this. He remembered that the purple energy crystal was worth 500,000 cultivation points, so he quickly said, "Kakashi, spit out the purple energy crystal once you've replenished your energy." "Ah, what?" Kakashi was shocked when he heard this. His laughter stopped abruptly. "How can you do this? Jocko, didn't you give it to me?" "Who said I would give it to you?" Zhou Jie asked helplessly. "He did not say that." Kakashi's face fell when he heard this. He cried out, "Ah, Jocko, you can't do this. You're deceiving my young heart." Chapter 152. Zhou Jie could not stand Kakashi's yelling anymore. Suddenly, he changed his mind and said, "All right, I'll give you the purple crystal." Kakashi heard Zhou Jie's words and smiled. "Haha, I knew Jocko was the best." Zhou Jie was already used to Kakashi's flattery, so he ignored it and thought about something else. "Oh, right, Kakashi, this is the secret realm in the Wanhai star field that I told you about. When I enter this secret realm, I can only use the energy of the mark. Rune soldiers can't be used here either. Pistols, laser guns, and even mechanical king weapons will become completely dead objects here and lose their original functions. So, why can you still shoot lasers?" Zhou Jie suddenly asked. The reason Zhou Jie summoned Kakashi was purely because he knew that Kakashi's body was so strong that even a Lord-level powerhouse would find it difficult to damage it. Therefore, he wanted to use it as a shield. At that time, the situation was urgent, and he didn't think about whether Kakashi could still move after it came out. After that, Kakashi came out perfectly fine. Only then did Zhou Jie think of letting it shoot lasers to try to drive away the undying three-headed dragon. He did not expect it to actually work. Now that Zhou Jie realized it, he was puzzled. Why was Kakashi not affected by the secret realm's laws? If that was the case, did that not make him a bug? Kakashi was also stunned when he heard Zhou Jie's question. Then, he scratched his watermelon head, and tilted his head to think. Suddenly, he looked happy and laughed. "Ah, I know. It must be because I'm too handsome, so, Kakashi." Zhou Jie stopped Kakashi and said with a dark face, "Be serious." Kakashi was immediately embarrassed. His face fell and he spread his hands. "Alright, actually, it should be related to the mark that master left on me. But I don't understand the laws, so I don't know what's going on. I feel that there's nothing special here other than the rich energy and some materials that are different from the outside world." "Oh, Mark? Where is it?" Zhou Jie could not help but ask, mostly out of curiosity. Unexpectedly, when Kakashi heard Zhou Jie's question, he suddenly hugged himself and looked at Zhou Jie nervously. Zhou Jie saw this and was confused. "What's wrong? Jocko, do you really want to see it?" Kakashi asked with an extremely embarrassed look. Zhou Jie immediately understood the meaning behind Kakashi's actions, and he could not help but grimace. Kakashi saw that Zhou Jie's expression did not look too good, and he hurriedly said, "All right, I'll take it off." However, Zhou Jie's eyes almost popped out of their sockets when he saw Kakashi begin to unbuckle his belt. "Wait, why are you taking off your pants?" "Jocko, don't you want to see the mark that master left behind? It's right on my butt," Kakashi replied with an innocent expression. Zhou Jie, "All right, don't take it off, I don't want to see it." Zhou Jie could not take it anymore, and he feebly stopped Kakashi on the spot. "Oh," Kakashi replied obediently, and his face seemed to be a little red as he stood there. Zhou Jie glanced at him, and for some reason, he suddenly felt as if thousands of creatures were running through his heart. After 2 seconds, Zhou Jie returned to his thinking state, and after thinking for a while, he said, "The three-headed undying dragon should still be around. Kakashi, go chase it away." Kakashi was shocked when he heard this. "Ah, why me?" Zhou Jie was speechless, and he could not help but say, "You have the purple crystal, so you don't have to worry about the burden of using laser eyes, and even Lord-tier monsters can't hurt you." What are you afraid of? Afraid that it will eat you? Kakashi thought for a moment, and it seemed to be the case, so he nodded and looked at Zhou. Alright, I'll go, but if it really eats me, Jocko, will you miss me? Kakashi's last question almost shocked Zhou to death. Poor Zhou, who usually dominated the game, now felt as if he was being trampled, and he did not feel good. Are you going or not? Zhou asked, Kadiza's blade in his hand. Kakashi's eyes twitched when he saw this, and he quickly smiled. Jocko, I'll go now. Leave this to me, don't worry. After saying this, Kakashi quickly climbed out of the canyon. Soon, the three-headed undying dragon's roar came from above the canyon, and the ground under Zhou feet trembled slightly. Then, it was Kakashi's turn to fight the three-headed undying dragon alone. Naturally, Kakashi screamed as he shot the three-headed undying dragon until it was covered in wounds. Finally, after Kakashi's scream, the three-headed undying dragon was exhausted and began to falter, and it stopped its useless attacks on Kakashi. Haha, you can't do it anymore, right? So what if you have 3 heads? I, Master Kakashi, still shot you to death. When Zhou heard Kakashi's triumphant shout, he knew that the three-headed undying dragon had been defeated, but he was still a little confused. Wasn't the undying dragon god supposed to be immortal? Just as Zhou was puzzled, he also heard Kakashi's strange shout from above. Wow, no way, I'm going to report you. You cheated, what the hell is resurrecting with full health? When Zhou heard this from the canyon, he was suddenly relieved. Okay, that's right. Then, the bottom of the canyon shook slightly again. It was obvious that the three-headed undying dragon was on the move again. At the same time, Zhou also heard Kakashi's scream. You, don't come any closer, I'm going to scream for help. Someone's going to kill me, help. But to Zhou's surprise, Kakashi's scream came to an abrupt end. Zhou hurriedly listened carefully to the movements above the canyon. When he heard it, he immediately understood what was going on. The three-headed undying dragon had actually flown away. At the same time, Kakashi rushed to the edge of the canyon and shouted to Zhou at the bottom of the canyon, Jocko, the three-headed dragon has flown away. It must have been scared away by me, haha. Zhou did not say anything when he heard this. He quickly came to the top of the canyon and looked at the three-headed undying dragon that had flown 1,000 meters away. His eyes suddenly lit up. Kakashi! Zhou suddenly shouted. Kakashi was stunned. What's wrong, Jocko? Do you want more purple crystals? Zhou turned to look at Kakashi, his expression showing a rare hint of malice. Seeing this, Kakashi could not help but widen his cute eyes and shrink his neck in fear. Jocko, what do you want? Okay. Zhou also realized that he was a little too excited and turned to calm himself down. He then continued to talk to Kakashi. It's like this, there are a lot of purple crystals growing on a cliff. The one in your stomach is from there, but I only had time to chisel 2 pieces before the three-headed undying dragon found it. So, the situation after that is just like what you saw. I was forced to escape into the canyon, and you know what happened after that. Kakashi listened to Zhou's explanation and his eyes lit up. He completely ignored the existence of the three-headed undying dragon and said, There are a lot of purple crystals on a cliff? Where? Jocko, take me there quickly. Zhou saw that Kakashi was so excited and immediately breathed a sigh of relief. He then reminded him, But let me make it clear first. There is more than one undying divine dragon there. There are about 12 of them. The three-headed undying dragon just now is the strongest among them. It has 3 heads, while the others only have 1. If you want to take the purple crystals, you will be obstructed by them. Kakashi heard this and hesitated for a moment. After thinking about it, he looked determined and said, I'm not afraid. Jocko, you said it yourself. The three-headed dragon is already the strongest. I'm not even afraid of it, so why should I be afraid of the other smaller ones? Zhou Jie nodded slightly but suddenly asked, I wonder who was screaming so miserably just now? Kakashi heard this and straightened his neck. He looked around and said, Is there? Who is it? Why didn't I see it? No, right? Although Kakashi was not afraid of getting hurt, Kakashi's true strength was not strong. He did not know how long it would take to chisel out a piece of purple crystal. Besides, Zhou Jie was afraid that Kakashi and the others would come back and discover Kakashi's existence, so he did not let Kakashi act immediately. Instead, he let Kakashi return to the space ring first, and then carefully returned to the edge of the cliff where the purple crystals were to investigate the situation. Chapter 153. Zhou Jie carefully crouched on the cliff and observed the area below. It seemed to be very calm, but there was a protruding peak between them. Zhou Jie could not see the surface of the lake. All he could see was the two sides of the lake. After making sure that the surrounding environment was safe, Zhou Jie slid down and once again landed on the protruding peak. He came to the edge and looked down. The entire surface of the lake was as calm as a mirror. There was no sign of the immortal dragon god, Harry, or the others. Zhou Jie thought for a while and summoned Kakashi. He then pointed to the energy amethyst on the cliff below. Do you have a sharp weapon? The energy amethyst needs to be cut before it can be removed as soon as possible. Before Kakashi left, Zhou Jie asked him. Kakashi thought for a while and took out a small black dagger from his space bracelet. He said, This dagger is called Extreme Sharp. It's a rune weapon. The material is much better than Kadi's blade. It can also suck blood. It's my favorite weapon. I usually use it to cut fruit. Jocko, what do you think? Zhou Jie said, Cut fruits. Okay, as long as it's sharper than Kadi's blade. Zhou Jie did not want to say more. He told Kakashi a few words and urged Kakashi to move quickly. Kakashi's strength was not strong, but his skills were beyond Zhou Jie's expectations. He was very good. He slid down the cliff with ease and could even change directions freely. Soon, he landed beside an energy amethyst. Then, Kakashi took out his fruit knife. Oh no, it was the rune weapon Extreme Sharp. He aimed at the root of the energy amethyst in the center of the crystal cluster and slashed hard. Zhou Jie was more than 2,000 meters away and could not hear a sound at all. Even with his vision, Kakashi was just a black dot. Therefore, he could not judge how much Kakashi could cut in the first time. He could only anxiously wait for Kakashi to cut the first piece of the energy amethyst. On Kakashi's side, when he saw that his first slash only cut about a millimeter into the root of the energy amethyst, he was so angry that his eyes almost popped out. So hard. I'll cut. Cut. Kakashi began to cut with all his might. Extreme Sharp began to slowly penetrate into the root of the energy amethyst at a speed visible to the naked eye. At this speed, it'll take 176 seconds. Kakashi's calculation ability was even better than a supercomputer. He quickly determined the time he needed to cut this energy amethyst. Zhou Jie watched Kakashi cut the purple crystal while observing the vicinity of the lake. At the same time, he paid attention to the changes on the surface of the lake. About 10 seconds later, Kakashi was working hard when he suddenly heard the sound of water below him. He could not help but look down. The snake creature slowly raised its head from the surface of the lake. Its dark golden eyes were fixed on Kakashi, who was about 200 meters away from the surface of the lake. Kakashi and the snake creature looked at each other. He could not help but gulp, but his hands did not slow down at all. Because of the previous example, the snake creature doubted that its attack on Kakashi would be effective. Therefore, it chose to summon the undying dragon god. Less than 3 seconds after the snake creature spoke, a huge black shadow broke out of the water. It was the three-headed undying dragon. I wonder if Kakashi can take it. When Zhou Jie saw the three-headed undying dragon, he could not help but doubt his own thoughts. Although Kakashi would not be injured, if he was hit on the mountain wall, he would be sent flying. On the other hand, the energy amethyst's self-healing ability was very strong. Once something left the cut would quickly heal. This was the fundamental reason why it was necessary to cut the energy amethyst. Roar! When the three-headed undying dragon saw that it was Kakashi who was stealing the energy amethyst, it was so angry that smoke was about to come out of its nostrils. It quickly flapped its wings and flew up to greet Kakashi with an icy breath. When Kakashi saw this, he quickly turned around to face the amethyst cluster. He held the amethyst cluster tightly and turned his back to face the icy breath. Ouch, it hurts! After being hit by the icy breath, Kakashi was not affected at all. He cried out in pain as he continued to cut the amethyst cluster. When the three-headed undying dragon saw that its icy breath was ineffective, it had no choice but to use its claws. However, because it had to avoid the amethyst cluster, it had to be very careful. It slowed down and reduced the strength of its claws. However, as mentioned before, Kakashi was very skilled. After calculating the trajectory of the three-headed undying dragon's attack, he turned sideways and accurately dodged the claws of the three-headed undying dragon. The three-headed undying dragon was not willing to give up. It roared and continued to attack, but Kakashi easily dodged every attack. In the blink of an eye, he continued to cut the amethyst cluster as if he was not affected at all. This time, the three-headed undying dragon was really angry and anxious, but there was nothing it could do. When Kakashi successfully cut the amethyst cluster, it chose to explode. It flapped one of its wings, ignoring the amethyst cluster, and directly slapped a large part of the cliff wall. This time, Kakashi could not avoid it. He took a solid hit from the wing, and his whole body was almost embedded in the rock crystal wall. However, Kakashi, who had obtained the amethyst cluster, did not complain. Instead, he was overjoyed. After putting away the amethyst cluster, he shook his butt at the three-headed undying dragon. The meaning was obvious. Come and hit me, come and hit me. When Jie saw that Kakashi had obtained an amethyst cluster, he was also very excited. At this time, Kakashi ignored the three-headed undying dragon and went for the second amethyst cluster. A few minutes later, Kakashi successfully cut the second amethyst cluster. The three-headed undying dragon was furious. It began to slap Kakashi with its wings, even ignoring the amethyst cluster. This situation scared Jie. He thought that Kakashi would give up, because in such a situation, Kakashi would be slapped every few times he cut, and it would take him more than 10 minutes to cut a single amethyst cluster. However, to Jie's surprise, Kakashi, who had already started to cut the third amethyst cluster, did not give up. It took him more than 10 minutes to cut the third amethyst cluster. Moreover, on the way, the other undying divine dragons that went out to chase Sammy and the others all returned. They attacked Kakashi crazily. Even Jie could not bear to watch their attacks, but anyway, Kakashi cut the third amethyst cluster. Oh my god, he's killing me! Help! After putting away the third energy amethyst, Kakashi finally had enough of the bullying. He rolled and crawled toward Jie's location while pretending to cry and shout. Jie was shocked to see that. He planned to run away, but when he looked closely, he found that none of the undying divine dragons were chasing after Kakashi. He immediately relaxed and sat there unhurriedly, waiting for Kakashi to come to him. The dozen undying divine dragons roared at the same time when they saw Kakashi running away. However, because they knew that it would be useless to chase after him, none of them chased after him. They only roared to save some face. This way, at least it would seem that Kakashi was beaten away by them. Jocko, I cut 3 amethyst cluster. Am I awesome? Kakashi said proudly to Jie as he climbed up the sub-peak with his face covered in dust and his clothes in rags. He did not look exhausted at all. Jie saw Kakashi like this. Although he knew that he was fine, he felt an inexplicable heartache. So he nodded and said, "You're awesome. Let's go to the canyon first." After that, Zhou Jie carried Kakashi all the way back to the canyon. There was a sunken area here that was considered very hidden. Zhou Jie and Kakashi stopped at the sunken area. Kakashi then asked Zhou Jie, "Jocko, can I have another one of these amethyst cluster?" Zhou Jie glanced at Kakashi. To Kakashi's surprise, he calmly replied, "You can keep what you got. I'll ask you for more if I need it." "Alright, you can go back to the spatial ring. I still have other things to do after I recover," Zhou Jie quickly added. Half a day later, Zhou Jie had more or less recovered. He got up and descended the mountain, coming to the plains. He planned to use the next 3 months mainly to hunt amethyst spirits and upgrade his mark to the 5th mark. After that, if he had the chance, he might get Kakashi to go get some more amethyst cluster. 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. Zhou Jie had successfully upgraded his mark to the 5th mark. Although killing people for their belongings and ill-gotten gains come quickly, it's still not the right way. Zhou Jie calmly said as he pulled out Kadi's sword. Blood gushed out from the blond man's throat, and he quickly breathed his last. This blond man was from the World Mercenary Group. He had just ambushed Zhou Jie and wanted to kill him for his belongings, but he was calmly killed by Zhou Jie. Chapter 154. Zhou Jie dealt with the corpse nearby. The 5 marks on his forehead that were covered by his bangs flashed slightly, and in the next second, he disappeared from where he was. Zhou Jie returned to the edge of the canyon and summoned Kakashi, who was eating a lollipop. "Jocko, you're looking for me?" Kakashi licked his lollipop and smacked his lip. Zhou Jie did not directly answer Kakashi's question. Instead, he asked, "Kakashi, do you still want to retrieve the purple crystals? I'm guessing I'll be transported to the next place in the next 2 days." The reason why Zhou Jie chose to ask Kakashi to retrieve the purple crystals in the last few days was mainly because he was afraid that they would encounter other people in the process of retrieving the purple crystals in the first few months. If that happened, it would be inevitable that there would be some trouble. It would be fine if they met someone alone, but if they were discovered by Harry and the others, then he and Kakashi would be in danger. Previously, when Kakashi was retrieving the purple crystals, it was because Harry and the others were chased away by the undying dragon god and would definitely not be able to return in a short period of time. That was why he asked Kakashi to take the risk. Okay, this time I want to retrieve more purple crystals. In a remote and desolate place like the Wanhai Star region, such energy crystals are too rare. To Zhou Jie's surprise, Kakashi could not help but agree. Moreover, he agreed very happily, and his eyes began to shine again. "Okay, then we'll do the same as before. Be careful, if there are any outsiders approaching, I'll tell you to retreat immediately. When that happens, don't hesitate and retreat immediately, understand?" Although it was the last few days, Zhou Jie was still afraid that something unexpected would happen, so he emphasized this to Kakashi. I understand, Jocko." Kakashi nodded in agreement. Zhou Jie was relieved and brought Kakashi to the cliff where the purple crystals were. He planned to let Kakashi cut the purple crystals as before. However, this time, Kakashi slid down to the side of a cluster of purple crystals and found that there were no purple crystals inside. This made him a little puzzled because he remembered that he had not taken any purple crystals here. However, he thought that Zhou Jie or someone else had taken them and did not care. After all, there were dozens of purple crystals elsewhere. However, a few minutes later, Kakashi was shocked to find that there were no purple crystals in more than 20 purple crystal clusters near the top of the cliff. The purple crystal furthest from the lake was only about 100 meters away from the surface of the lake. Although Kakashi was a little shocked by this, he did not have time to think about it. After all, he would never have thought that this was done by more than 10 undying divine dragons. The secret of their immortality lay in the purple crystals in their bodies that could bring them back to life. Because Kakashi had cut the purple crystals too brazenly the last time, these undying divine dragons had each swallowed a purple crystal in advance, causing the number of purple crystals to decrease by nearly a third. This time, Kakashi cut the purple crystals again and soon alarmed the snake creature. The snake creature summoned the undying divine dragons and the undying three-headed dragon. When the undying divine dragons saw Kakashi, they roared angrily, but their expressions were helpless because they knew that they could not really stop Kakashi. At most, they could slow down the speed at which he cut the purple crystals. Then, Zhou heard a series of collisions and Kakashi's faint screams on the subpeak. This situation lasted for a few hours. Zhou was shocked by Kakashi's perseverance. How many purple crystals was he going to cut? Finally, Kakashi shouted again, "Murder, help!" and escaped. After meeting up with Zhou quickly brought him back to the edge of the canyon. "Kakashi, how many pieces did you cut this time?" Zhou could not help but ask. "Hee, 17 pieces. How is it? I'm awesome, right?" Kakashi smiled proudly. Coupled with his tattered clothes and messy hair, he really looked a little, silly? Well, that was more or less what it meant. However, Zhou was shocked by the number 17. He could not help but say, 17 pieces. That means, other than the piece for you, there are still 20 purple crystals. Kakashi grinned. Hee, that's right. I really wanted to cut off all those purple crystals, but I realized that my extreme sharpness is a little curved. I'm afraid that if I cut it off again, it'll be completely useless. That's enough purple crystals. It's not good to be greedy. Let's wait quietly for the next realm, Zhou said. He did not want Kakashi to take any more risk. Dozens of hours later, Zhou was sitting cross-legged on the peak of a mountain that was tens of thousands of meters high, quietly watching the overall situation of the purple crystal mine. Suddenly, he realized that a white fog had appeared around him. It gradually thickened and enveloped him. Zhou knew that this was the sign of teleportation, so he was not nervous. He just stood up and waited for the teleportation to complete. Finally, when the fog was so thick that Zhou could not look at his palm, he sensed a familiar spatial fluctuation. At the same time, his consciousness blurred. When Zhou woke up, he felt that he had only been absent-minded for a moment. His feet did not move at all, and his body also maintained its original position. However, the scene that entered his eyes had changed greatly. Previously, it was the boundless purple crystal mountains, but now it was a barren mountain range. At this moment, Zhou was in the middle of a path between two barren, grayish-black hills that were hundreds of meters tall. Above his head was a thick layer of grayish-black clouds, causing the entire mountain range to appear dark and gloomy. Zhou looked at the path in front of him and saw that it was straight. It was only 100 meters away that he could not see clearly because of the light gray fog. Looking back, he saw the same scenery. There are many treasures in the 10,000 Treasures Ridge, but there are also many dangerous places. Terrifying ferocious beasts are hidden in the mountains. Even the cultivators of the 6 mystic marks can't avoid them. Zhou recalled the simple description of the 10,000 Treasures Ridge in the information he had received. He could not help but become alert again. There are treasures in 10,000 Treasures Ridge that are several times more precious than the purple crystal. Even an inconspicuous little thing could be a treasure. Zhou began to move. At the same time, he thought to himself, feeling slightly excited. Zhou walked forward for more than 100 meters and gradually entered the thin gray smoke. His vision was obstructed, and he could only see the situation within 20 to 30 meters. If it was 50 meters away, he would even need to distinguish a person to be able to see it. However, for a Star Lord, 50 meters was like a distance of half a meter between ordinary people, which could be crossed in the blink of an eye. Therefore, Zhou Jie had to be very vigilant in case of a sudden attack. After walking forward for a while, Zhou Jie found that he seemed to have entered a valley. The gray fog gradually dispersed, and he saw the entrance to an open area with a diameter of 40 to 50 meters. Without the gray fog, Zhou Jie looked around and made sure that there was no danger. He immediately sped up and approached the entrance. After a while, Zhou Jie passed through the entrance of the open space and found that it was a huge circular open space with a diameter of 200 to 300 meters. It was surrounded by several mountains. Except for the place where Zhou Jie entered, there were no other entrances. After observing the layout of the open area, Zhou Jie finally noticed that there was a quagmire on the left side of the open area. Its color was very similar to the color of the ground, which was why Zhou Jie didn't notice it at first. The quagmire was also roughly circular, with a diameter of 20 meters. After noticing the quagmire, Zhou Jie soon saw a strange flower growing on a cliff next to the quagmire. It was a light gray flower that was as large as a human face. It was emitting a glittering halo of energy, which surprised Zhou Jie. Zhou Jie had seen plants emitting energy in the bloody soil jungle before, but those were all gigantic plant lives. However, such a small flower didn't seem to have a consciousness. It was quite horrifying that it could emit a halo of energy. That was because universal energy didn't emit light by itself. Only when enough energy was gathered would there be such a phenomenon. Many thoughts flashed in Zhou Jie's head. Then, he frowned and tried to approach the gray flower while staying as far away from the quagmire as possible. Chapter 155. Zhou Jie quickly approached the gray flower while paying attention to the changes in the quagmire. When Zhou Jie was less than 10 meters away from the flower, a slight bulge appeared on the surface of the quagmire, and two dark golden eyes silently appeared. Zhou Jie had obviously anticipated the danger in the quagmire. Although the pair of eyes appeared silently, Zhou Jie still discovered it at the first moment. So careful? Zhou Jie saw that the mysterious creature in the quagmire was actually so cautious, and couldn't help but be shocked, because this meant that it was very likely to have a high intelligence. Whoosh! At this moment, Zhou Jie burst out like lightning and pounced to the side of the gray flower. He raised his sword and chopped it down, storing it in the space ring. The creature in the quagmire obviously didn't expect Zhou Jie to suddenly burst out and cut off the flower so cleanly. It immediately roared angrily and pounced out of the quagmire. Zhou Jie looked back and saw that it was a creature that looked like a crocodile. It was 7 to 8 meters long and 2 meters wide. At this moment, it was rushing toward him with its bloody mouth wide open. Zhou Jie hurriedly borrowed the force of the wall to dodge to the side, intending to escape. Unexpectedly, the crocodile creature changed direction along the way, swung its head to block his path, and turned its head to bite at him. The bloody mouth was 2 meters wide, and its sharp teeth seemed to be cast from steel, flashing with a cold light. It was very frightening. Zhou Jie knew that this kind of creature's bite force was amazing, and didn't want to try to block its mouth, so he hurriedly tried his best to dodge. The crocodile creature was surprisingly agile, and it immediately swung its tail at Zhou Jie, also blocking Zhou Jie's escape route to the exit. Zhou Jie didn't expect the crocodile creature to be so agile, and its attack was so fast and continuous that he couldn't dodge perfectly. He could only use the energy of the mark to block the tail swing with his arms. Pung! Zhou Jie was swept away on the spot and smashed into the side of the cliff. This time, Zhou Jie was completely shocked. This crocodile's combat ability was really strong. Its flexibility was far beyond what its physical body could display. As a result, even Zhou Jie could not predict the crocodile's attack and was at a disadvantage. It's very strong. Even if I use all my strength, I can barely fight it. It's also very fast. The situation isn't good. Zhou Jie instantly determined the threat level of the crocodile creature and felt that it was a little tricky. The crocodile seemed to be angry because Zhou Jie had cut down the gray flower. It roared and rushed towards Zhou Jie again. It opened its mouth and wanted to bite Zhou Jie. After Zhou Jie suffered a loss, he became more serious. His eyes focused and he dodged to the side. Then, he raised his leg and kicked upwards. The crocodile creature just happened to turn its head. Because its head was raised high, Zhou Jie lowered his body and kicked upwards. It happened to kick its jaw. The crocodile creature couldn't help but turn its head back in pain. Zhou Jie took the opportunity to flip upside down to reduce the momentum and quickly flew towards the exit. The crocodile creature was unwilling to let Zhou Jie go. It quickly turned around and chased after him. Its speed was very fast, and because it was close to the side of the entrance, it was one step ahead of Zhou Jie. It gambled at the entrance and pounced on Zhou Jie again. Zhou Jie held the blade of Cadi's and dodged the crocodile creature's huge mouth while blocking its tail attack. For a moment, he couldn't break through the encirclement. After fighting like this for more than half a minute, Zhou Jie decided to break through after familiarizing himself with the crocodile creature's attack method. Taking advantage of the crocodile creature's tail, he rolled up and slashed down. When the crocodile creature's tail collided, he cleverly used the force to spin and jump over the crocodile creature's interception. Without stopping in the air, he flew out of the valley entrance. Ha! The crocodile creature refused to give up and furiously chased after him. Zhou Jie didn't want to fight with it again. He ran away and rushed into the gray fog again. Not long after, the crocodile creature lost track of Zhou Jie and gave up chasing him. Zhou Jie continued to run for hundreds of meters. After making sure that the crocodile creature had been shaken off, he breathed a sigh of relief and stopped running. At this time, Zhou Jie looked around and found that he had come to an area that he had never been to before. There was no gray fog around him. At a glance, he could see a mountain ridge hundreds of meters ahead. Zhou Jie thought for a moment. Seeing that the mountain ridge wasn't very steep, he jumped up and climbed up. It was only 300 meters high, so Zhou Jie reached the top in less than a minute. The view at the top of the mountain was much wider, but many places were shrouded in gray fog. Zhou Jie casually looked at the surrounding layout and didn't find anything strange. He went back to the ground and rushed along the road again. After walking like this for nearly half a day, Zhou Jie found a huge cave under the mountain ridge that was blocked by rocks. If you didn't look carefully, you wouldn't have noticed it. Zhou Jie also noticed that the rocks had moved before he finally found the cave. The cave entrance had a diameter of 4 or 5 meters, and the rock blocking the entrance was naturally even bigger. Zhou Jie tried his best not to make any noise, and pushed the boulder away to create a gap that allowed him to squeeze in, and entered the cave entrance. The passage behind the cave slanted downwards into the ground. It was naturally dark inside. Although Zhou Jie's night vision was good, he couldn't see his fingers in front of him. There was really no light at all. Zhou Jie went all the way to the bottom of the cave. Using his energy, he found that he was in a spacious cave. But what made Zhou Jie's hair stand on end was that the cave wall above his head actually had a reaction of life energy. Moreover, it covered the entire top of the cave. At the same time, Zhou Jie smelled a sticky moisture in the air. It was a little warm and the smell was very strange. This made Zhou Jie's pupils shrink slightly. If he didn't guess wrong, this was caused by a kind of biological fluid in the air. Zhou Jie was stunned for a second. He suddenly raised his right hand and the 6 xian marks on his forehead flashed. A ball of light condensed on his right hand, illuminating the not-so-high ceiling of the cave. Zhou Jie saw the situation at the top of the cave. His pupils shrank. He endured the feeling of nausea and quickly turned around and rushed out of the cave. Zhou Jie ran out of the cave. The noise was a little loud, and finally alarmed the mysterious creature in the depths of the cave. It was shaped like a bat, but its wings couldn't fly. Instead, they hardened into powerful feet. Its head was covered with a hard shell, and its 2 eyes were like those of an insect. This mysterious creature sensed that Zhou Jie ran out of the cave. It opened its sharp mouth and looked up at the eggs that it had laid on the top of the cave. Then it turned around and went back into the depths of the cave. Out of the cave, Zhou Jie pushed the rock back to its original position and quickly ran far away. He was secretly relieved. This time, he also felt that he was stupid. There definitely wouldn't be any treasures in a place like that. Fortunately, he reacted quickly. Otherwise, he would have been treated by the cave owner. After moving for another day, Zhou Jie still didn't see a single person. Instead, he came across a purple tree that emitted rich energy in an open space. Unfortunately, there was a magic array around it. Zhou Jie tried to break it, but he couldn't find a way to break it. So he gave up for the time being. After another 2 days, Zhou Jie crossed a mountain ridge. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of a special light in the clouds in the distance. The light itself was extremely weak, and it was almost impossible to distinguish the difference between it and the light that existed in the world itself. It was only because the sky was originally filled with grayish-black clouds that the light pierced out from the clouds, appearing abrupt. This inadvertently attracted Zhou Jie's attention and confirmed that there was a special light there. This naturally attracted Zhou Jie to investigate. So he explored in the direction of the light source. After more than 10 minutes, he finally saw the light source. The moment he saw the light source, Zhou Jie opened his mouth in surprise. What level of treasure is this? Zhou Jie couldn't help but think after he recovered from his surprise. It turned out that the source of light was a gorgeous divine sword. It was suspended in the air nearly 1,000 meters above the ground. Even the gray clouds within a radius of 100 meters had been dispelled. It was surrounded by faint white clouds, which made the sword look like an immortal weapon. What was even more inconceivable was that there were 4 golden chains connected to the body of the sword, and they were respectively connected to the top of the 4 mountain ridges. This inevitably caused Zhou Jie to be surprised. Could it be that this sword is not locked and can fly away by itself? Or was it to prevent it from being easily taken away by intruders like them? Zhou Jie stood in place and thought for a while. Then he realized that he was still hundreds of meters away from the surface of the sword in the clouds. So he planned to get closer to see the situation below the sword, including the top of the mountain where the 4 golden chains were. Chapter 156. Zhou Jie approached the sword in the clouds. When he was about 300 m away from the ground below the sword, Zhou Jie chose to climb up a short mountain on one side. The top of this short mountain was connected to the end of a golden chain. When he approached the top, Zhou Jie was surprised to find that there were already 2 people standing there. One of them was someone he recognized, Zhuoqiu Hong's only direct disciple, Luo Feng. As for the other man with gray curly hair, Zhou Jie only knew that he was from the Mystic Realm Academy and nothing else. Senior Luo Feng? Zhou Jie jumped onto the platform and was surprised to see Luo Feng here. Luo Feng was wearing a black battle suit. He had neat black hair and a resolute face. When he saw Zhou Jie greet him, he immediately smiled at Zhou Jie and nodded. Junior brother Zhou Jie, it's such a coincidence to meet you. It is quite a coincidence, Zhou Jie replied with a faint smile. He glanced at the gray-haired man not far away. He was very wary of Zhou Jie's arrival. At this moment, his eyes were like a poisonous snake staring at Zhou Jie. Luo Feng saw Zhou Jie's actions and also looked at the gray-haired man. He smiled and said, Razif, you don't need to be nervous. We agreed to work together. It's good that junior brother is here. However, the gray-haired man, Razif, turned his gaze away and coldly said, I don't think so. Luo Feng helplessly shook his head and said, You have such a bad temper. If I wanted to deal with you, I alone would be enough. Since we've chosen to work together, you don't need to expose your wariness. This is really annoying. Razif looked into the distance. When he heard Luo Feng's words, his eyebrows knitted together. You alone can deal with me? Luo Feng, you're still as arrogant as before. When Luo Feng heard this, his expression remained calm. He said indifferently, I'm not arrogant. It's just that this is better when facing you, isn't it? Zhou Jie was flabbergasted by the relationship between Luo Feng and Rasif when Rasif suddenly turned his head. His shoulder-length hair fluttered behind his head, revealing the mark on his forehead that was originally covered by his bangs. Impressively, it was the sixth profound mark. At this moment, the mark was exuding a dazzling energy light. Seeing this, Luo Feng looked at Rasif calmly. The 6 Xian imprint on his forehead glowed as if it could explode at any time. Seeing this, Zhou Jie was speechless. He really didn't know what to say. However, Zhou Jie was really afraid that Luo Feng would start fighting just like that. He had no choice but to speak up in time. Senior brother, I've just arrived. I just greeted you guys. It's not very good for you guys to be like this, right? When Luo Feng heard this, the faint aura on his body disappeared. He turned to Zhou Jie and smiled apologetically. Oh right. Then let's just ignore him. His temper is like that. Luo Feng said as he patted Zhou Jie's shoulder to show that they were close. When Rasif saw this, he knew that it was pointless and turned his head to look into the distance. Senior brother, what are you guys doing here? That is. When Zhou Jie saw that Luo Feng and Rasif were fine, he casually asked. However, before he finished his first sentence, Zhou Jie caught a glimpse of the empty space behind Luo Feng. He couldn't help but exclaim in shock. When Luo Feng saw this, he followed Zhou Jie's gaze and turned to look. He then smiled and explained to Zhou Jie, you saw it too. There are 9 treasures in that empty space. Rasif and I plan to work together to obtain 2 of them. We're just waiting for the right time here. Waiting for the right time? Zhou Jie couldn't help but be confused. Thus, Luo Feng brought Zhou Jie to a black stone tablet not far away. Take a look and you'll know. Luo Feng then pointed at the words on the stone tablet and said to Zhou Jie. Zhou Jie then looked at the stone tablet. The top of the stone tablet was connected to a golden chain, which was the source of the golden chain. On the surface there were some crooked words. It was the universal language. Even though Zhou Jie had learned it before, he could only understand the general meaning. What it means is that the empty space is a sword array. Every once in a while, the core of the sword array, which is the sword in the sky, will absorb energy. At that time, the power of the sword array will be greatly reduced. Those who are fated can enter and choose the treasures? Zhou Jie explained his understanding of the language to confirm with Luo Feng. Unexpectedly, Luo Feng nodded and smiled with certainty. That's right. However, even if the power of the sword array is reduced, it's still very dangerous to obtain 2 of the 9 treasures. Luo Feng then continued with a serious expression. What's wrong? Zhou Jie still did not understand and could not help but ask. Because it's not just the 2 of us who are eyeing the 9 treasures. There are others, especially the people from the Skysea Cosmic Nation. They must have known about the situation here and found this place one by one. Luo Feng said. As soon as Luo Feng finished speaking, Zhou Jie looked at a mountain in the distance and frowned slightly. I see them. Yes, there are 5 of them. Even if there's no one with the 6 Xian marks, it's not easy to deal with them. Luo Feng said, but his tone was still very calm. Zhou Jie looked at the mountain where He Li and the others were, deep in thought. Luo Feng suddenly noticed the mark under Zhou Jie's bangs and quickly said with surprise, Oh, Junior, I didn't expect you to have the 6 Xian marks too. If that's the case, we don't have to be afraid of the people from the Skysea Cosmic Nation. Oh, it's just luck. Zhou Jie only smiled and explained to Luo Feng's surprise at his mark level. Then Zhou Jie thought of another question, so he asked, Right, Senior, when will the sword array start to weaken? Is there any sign? Or do we just wait here? Luo Feng heard the question and seemed to remember something, so he said, I forgot to mention, the time on the stone tablet means that it's normal that you don't understand it. It says once every 10 days, but we don't know when the last time is, so we've been waiting here since we arrived. The people from the Skysea Cosmic Nation came even earlier and have been waiting. I estimate that the sword array's power will start to weaken in at most a week. Then, Luo Feng told Zhou Jie a few things, such as the power of the sword array that he tested and some of the people who were present, etc. After that, Luo Feng said, there's no one else for us at the moment, so let's just wait. So Zhou Jie and Luo Feng began to wait patiently. 2 days later, Veronica walked between the mountains, the tip of his spear holding a furry ball-like creature. The creature's blood was still slowly seeping out, and every once in a while, a drop would drip down. Veronica had been attacked by 4 mountain creatures on his way here, and he had killed all 4 of them. The mark on his forehead had also become the 6 Xian mark. However, Veronica felt that it was not enough. As long as there was a chance, he would grab it. The creature he was holding on to his spear had blood that could attract other mountain creatures. Veronica planned to attract as many mountain creatures as possible before the creature's blood ran dry. That way, he could keep accumulating the things he needed to upgrade his mark. Screech! Suddenly, a sharp bird cry came from above Veronica's head. A strange black and red bird broke through the clouds and pounced on Veronica. Veronica immediately put the creature at the tip of his spear into his spatial bracelet. When the strange bird's claws were not far from his head, he thrust his spear forward. The spearhead accurately pierced the strange bird's abdomen, and then Veronica used his strength to shake the spearhead, causing it to continuously damage the strange bird's abdomen. At the same time, the strange bird's claws were cleverly dodged by Veronica. The strange bird cried out in pain and wanted to escape, but Veronica's attack was too fast. The strange bird only flew a few meters before a large hole appeared in its abdomen. Blood and innards spilled all over the ground. After another few dozen meters, the strange bird swayed and fell to the other side of the mountain. Veronica was afraid that the strange bird was not dead, so he quickly chased after it. He saw that the strange bird had crashed into the bottom of a strange mountain and was no longer breathing. After confirming that it was dead, Veronica was attracted by the mountain in front of him. This was a long mountain. It was also very short, not even 200 meters tall. The surface of the mountain had many rough textures, which was the main reason why Veronica was paying attention to this mountain. This mountain is so strange. Why are there so many textures? Could it be that the entire mountain is engraved with a formation? Veronica suddenly had a guess, and he could not help but open his eyes wide. He wanted to find out. Chapter 157. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye, and there were only the 3 of them on the mountain where Zhou Jie was. During this time, a genius from the World Mercenary Group came to the mountaintop, but when he saw Zhou Jie and the other 2, he ran away without a second thought, as if he was afraid that they would team up and kill him. Zhou Jie and Luo Feng sat in a corner of the mountaintop and chatted as usual. They shared their experiences and opinions on certain matters. Razif leaned against a giant rock in another corner of the mountaintop, coldly watching Zhou Jie and Luo Feng as they chatted. From time to time, he would observe the surroundings and was always vigilant. It was really dangerous that time. The Dark Alliance sent out the Sky Assassin. At that time, I had just become a high-ranking Star Lord and was no match for the Sky Assassin. Luckily, Luo Feng was talking to Zhou Jie about a dangerous experience he had. Suddenly, from the corner of his eye, he saw the light emitted by the sword in the clouds suddenly become stronger. He couldn't help but stop talking and look at the sword in the clouds with some surprise. Zhou Jie also sensed the momentary change in the light, so he looked up. The formation is weakening? Zhou Jie saw the sword in the clouds getting brighter and the body of the sword trembling slightly. At the same time, he sensed the energy particles in the sky gathering towards the sword in the clouds. He couldn't help but ask, "Yes, it should be. Let's watch the people from the Sky-Sea Cosmic Nation. When they move, we will move." Luo Feng stood up and said with a serious expression. Razif came close to Luo Feng and looked at Harry and the others on the mountaintop in the distance. He said with a slightly hoarse voice, "Looks like it's not time yet." As soon as Razif finished, the sword in the clouds began to tremble violently and hummed. Even from 1,000 meters away, they could faintly hear it. Following the change of the sword in the clouds, there was a roar in the sky. Zhou Jie could tell at a glance that it was a shocking phenomenon caused by the gathering of energy into a tide. Very soon, the brilliance released by the sword in the clouds was transmitted down through space, forming an extremely vague light beam that covered the entire empty ground that was surrounded by a few hills below. Then, dense lines began to appear on the ground, emitting a mysterious brilliance. This was a scene that had never been seen or heard of before. It really shocked Zhou Jie. For a moment, he even suspected that he had traveled to the legendary world of magic. The light screen and the glowing lines on the ground flickered for dozens of seconds. The 9 treasures floating in the open space seemed to have begun to absorb energy, and visible energy strands were converging towards them. After a few more seconds, the 9 treasures suddenly began to dance in the air. From time to time, they would fly hundreds of meters in the air, and from time to time, they would fly close to the ground. Zhou Jie was dumbfounded. He didn't know what was going on. Zhou Jie wanted to ask what was going on and when could they go in, but on second thought, it was pointless. Luo Feng had said that they would wait for the Sky-Sea Cosmic Nations people to make their move first. Whoosh! Just as Zhou Jie was thinking, the dreamy energy particles in the open space suddenly turned into countless energy bodies that looked like swords. They looked extremely condensed and still in the air. At this moment, 6 people jumped down from the mountain in the distance and headed towards the open space. It was the 6 people from the Sky-Sea Cosmic Nation led by Harry. There was one person who didn't appear for some reason. "Let's go," Luo Feng said the second after Harry and the others jumped down from the mountain. Then, he looked at Razif, and the 2 of them moved forward at the same time. Zhou Jie quickly followed. Harry and the others stepped into the open space before Zhou Jie and the others. Suddenly, a portion of the countless swords in the sky flashed towards them, their speed as fast as bullets. Harry and the others were obviously prepared. The energy in each of their bodies surged, and they worked together to release a wave of energy that directly shattered a large portion of the swords. The 6 of them didn't slow down at all as they surrounded the nearest treasure. Harry and the others had their eyes on a black treasure that looked like a shuttle. Its surface surged with a bluish-green brilliance. It was like a living thing that was moving back and forth less than 3 meters above the ground, as if it was trapped in a certain area. "It's mine." Harry rushed to within 50 meters of the black treasure. He raised his hand and threw out a black ball. The ball instantly turned into a dense net with a diameter of more than 30 meters in the air, and it began to shrink towards the black treasure. Luo Feng and the other 2 had just entered the open space from the other side. Seeing that Harry was about to get his hands on the treasure, they were all shocked. As everyone expected, the dense net covered the black shuttle treasure. It then shrank to a certain size and nailed the 4 corners to the ground. However, the black shuttle treasure wasn't nailed to the ground. It continued to fly to the side in its original flight path, causing the entire dense net to be pulled away from the ground. Harry's expression changed when he saw this. He hurriedly rushed out, and dozens of swords shot towards him from all directions. Harry activated the power of the imprint, and with a shake of his hands, he shattered all the swords and continued to rush towards the dense net. "Roar!" Harry roared, and his speed soared to the extreme. It was as if he had gone mad. He finally pounced on a corner of the dense net and pulled it, wanting to take the black shuttle treasure into his hands. On the other side, Luo Feng and the other two had defeated a round of swords. Luo Feng was thinking about whether to snatch food from the tiger's mouth and snatch the black shuttle treasure from Harry. Suddenly, a stream of light flashed not far away. A gilded flag happened to fly to a height of 5 to 6 meters above the ground, and it flew behind Luo Feng and the other two. "It belongs to whoever gets it," Luo Feng shouted. Almost at the same time, he flew towards the gilded flag with Rashif. Zhou Jie frowned when he saw this, but he didn't try to snatch it. He flew and dodged a few attacks from the sword. He looked at Harry and saw that Harry had already captured the black shuttle treasure in his hands and was beginning to refine it. He couldn't help but be tempted. Previously, when he followed Luo Feng and the others to snatch treasures, he was actually prepared in his heart that the treasures were too rare, and he might not be able to get them. However, seeing that there was a slight chance and that he was on good terms with Luo Feng, Zhou Jie was willing to stay and fight for the treasures with Luo Feng. However, at this moment, Zhou Jie saw that Harry had obtained a treasure so easily. He couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised, and his desire to obtain a treasure was much stronger. In fact, it wasn't just Zhou Jie who felt this way. After Zhou Jie and the others, there were 6 people who entered the open space one after another. They all saw how Harry snatched the treasure. It was indeed very easy, and they couldn't help but be eager to try and snatch a treasure. Purring! A golden staff flew horizontally and fell, immediately attracting the attention of many people. In an instant, 8 or 9 people rushed towards the golden staff. Harry was still refining the black shuttle treasure, so he couldn't join in the fight for it. Seeing this, he quickly shouted for his companions to snatch it. However, there was no need for Harry to say this, as the 5 people behind him had already rushed out at the same time. Whoosh! Zhou Jie also flew out, but at this moment, for some reason, a rain of swords suddenly exploded in the sky. Tens of thousands of swords shot down directly, and the power seemed to be much stronger than before. Zhou Jie immediately controlled the golden lotus sword to form a shield to resist, but this time, there were too many swords. The attacks were concentrated and continuous, and the power accumulated. When the swords hit the golden lotus sword shield, the sword shield only lasted for less than a second before it shattered. "It's so much stronger?" Zhou Jie was shocked. He hurriedly released the energy of the imprint to resist, and in the end, he actually managed to resist. Ah! Ugh! There were several continuous screams in the open space. It turned out that several geniuses failed to resist the rain of swords and were hit by some of the swords. Although they protected their heads, there were several bloody holes on their hands and bodies. Even their armor was useless. Seeing this, Zhou Jie was also shocked, but he soon calmed down. He had the 6 Xian marks, and those who failed to resist the rain of swords were all 5 Xian marks. There were even some 5 Xian marks who were not injured. In fact, this was because they dodged in time and were in the outer area of the rain of swords, so the power of the attack was less. Therefore, as long as he was careful, he should not be in danger. As a result, Zhou Jie's figure stagnated for a moment before he once again burst into speed and flew toward the golden stick. The rest of the people were either injured or dodging outwards, causing them to be unable to keep up for a while. Zhou Jie became the first person to enter 30 meters in front of the golden stick. Chapter 158. However, the golden cudgel flew horizontally towards Pu Jinsen and the others. Just as Zhou Jie was about to grab it, Pu Jinsen also arrived beside the cudgel and reached out to grab it. Pa! In the end, Zhou Jie was the first to grab one end of the staff. The energy of the 6 Xian marks completely erupted. At the same time, Zhou Jie used the Great Cosmos Shift, twisting his body and causing the staff to deviate from its flight direction, bringing him to the other side. Pu Jinsen almost touched the golden stick. Seeing this, he couldn't help but fly into a rage. "You're courting death. Capture him." Pu Jinsen was the second in command of the Sky-Sea Cosmic Nation. Since Pu Jinsen had already obtained one treasure, it was only natural for him to obtain the second one. But now that someone had snatched away the treasure that almost belonged to him right under his nose, he was naturally furious. So, he quickly called for everyone to snatch the golden staff back from Zhou Jie's hands. Zhou Jie did not care about the number of people on the other side. Since it was a treasure that was already in his hands, it was impossible for him to easily spit it out. Swish, swish, swish. The golden lotus sword flower scattered and blocked the people from the Sky-Sea Cosmic Nation who were pouncing on Zhou Jie. Zhou Jie took the opportunity to grab the staff treasure and flew to the edge of the open space. At the same time, Luo Feng had already obtained the golden flag and was refining it. Razif's expression was unsightly as he looked towards Zhou Jie. This kid also obtained a treasure. Razif couldn't help but feel upset. The three of them had formed a team, but in just 2 minutes, Luo Feng and Luo Feng had each obtained a treasure. He was the only one who didn't get one. Anyone would feel a little unbalanced in their heart. "Razif, junior brother, and I have both obtained treasures. Next, we'll help you obtain one, and then we'll split up," Luo Feng said to Razif. He had agreed to cooperate with Razif earlier, so he had to fulfill it. Luo Feng then noticed the few soldiers chasing after Zhou Jie and said to Razif, "Let's go, we'll go help little junior brother." Razif glanced at Luo Feng and said coldly, "You should focus on refining your treasure." Before he finished speaking, Razif had already rushed out at top speed and flew opposite to Zhou Jie. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had converged. "Show me what you've got," Razif shouted at Zhou Jie, then brushed past him and collided with the genius chasing after Zhou Jie, sending him flying. Zhou Jie quickly turned around and faced the geniuses of the Sky-Sea Cosmic Country with Razif. Pu Jinsen followed closely behind. The 6 profound marks on his forehead flashed violently, and a saber filled with endless anger directly slashed towards Zhou Jie. However, just as Zhou Jie was about to make a move, Rashif was 1 step ahead of him. He threw a black spear at Pu Jinsen. Pung! 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 The two of them attacked 3 times in a second. Each attack was powerful, but the energy released was very condensed. After the collision, there wasn't much of a shockwave. The other 4 from the Sky-Sea Cosmic Country went around Rashif and Pu Jinsen and were about to join forces to deal with Zhou Jie. Zhou Jie wasn't afraid at all. Just as he was about to fight with the 4 of them, he suddenly felt a tremor beneath his feet. He couldn't help but be stunned. However, the 4 from the Sky-Sea Cosmic Country followed closely behind. 4 weapons slashed towards Zhou Jie. Zhou Jie had no choice but to dodge and block. At this time, the ground shook even more violently. The 4 who were about to surround Zhou Jie stopped in shock, trying to figure out what was going on. Thump! 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 A rumbling sound came from afar and the ground shook. As the sound came closer, the ground shook even more violently. At this time, everyone stopped fighting and retreated to look in the direction of the sound. They wanted to know what was going on. However, at this time, the countless sword rays that had stopped attacking after the rain of sword rays started attacking again. Zhou Jie and the others quickly responded and gathered together at the same time. "It seems like something is moving towards here." While Zhou Jie and the other 2 gathered together to block the sword rays, Luo Feng looked towards the source of the sound with a serious expression. It was blocked by a mountain ridge, so they couldn't see what was behind it. However, the source of the sound was behind them. From the moment Zhou Jie felt the ground shaking to the moment Luo Feng finished speaking, only 10 seconds had passed. Zhou Jie saw a figure flying down from the mountain ridge in the direction of the sound. Following that, a huge white object rose from behind the mountain ridge. When Zhou Jie saw the white object clearly, He was shocked and couldn't help but ask, "What is that?" On the other side, Veronica slid down the mountain ridge and entered the open space. He was immediately attacked by a wave of sword rays. He was shocked, but fortunately, he reacted quickly and broke all the sword rays with a burst of energy. He continued to run towards the center of the open space. "I don't know what that is either," Luo Feng answered Zhou Jie, his face full of shock. At the same time, Harry and the others saw that the white object was about to cross the mountain ridge and enter the open space. Their faces turned pale, and a few of them shouted in fear, "Mountain giant, it's a mountain giant! Let's go!" Harry had refined the treasure in his hand and shouted. He gave up on fighting for the treasure and took the lead to escape from the open space. Luo Feng and the others vaguely heard the screams of the people from the Sky-Sea cosmic country and knew that the huge white strip-shaped creature was called the Mountain Giant. However, other than that, they didn't know what was so terrifying about the Mountain Giant that it made the people from the Sky-Sea cosmic country give up on fighting for the treasure and choose to escape. "It's Veronica!" Zhou Jie was the first to notice that the person being chased by the mountain giant was Veronica. At this time, Veronica also noticed Zhou Jie and the others. A look of struggle flashed across his face, but he ignored Zhou Jie and the others and continued to run forward. Soon, he reached the edge of the open space. The 200-meter-tall mountain giant moved its pillar-like legs, and each step it took covered 100 meters. Its movement didn't seem fast, but its speed was shocking. Veronica couldn't get too far away from it. "Let's chase after him and ask Veronica." Luo Feng made a prompt decision and was about to give chase. However, Razif quickly blocked in front of Luo Feng and asked, "If you want to leave, then what about my treasure? I'll give it to you." Luo Feng heard him and threw his treasure flag to Razif without hesitation. Then, he dodged him and continued to chase after Veronica. Zhou Jie followed closely behind Luo Feng and saw that the huge mountain giant was already standing in the middle of the open space. The huge light green vertical eye in the middle of its strip-shaped body lit up and shot out a gray-green light beam. It first shone on the people who were escaping to the edge of the open space. Then, as the mountain giant turned around, the light beam swept towards Zhou Jie and the others. The mountain giant's eye was more than 10 meters in diameter. Therefore, the light beam was very thick and its speed was at the speed of light. Zhou Jie and the others could predict the mountain giant's movements and dodge quickly. Only then did they manage to dodge the gray-green light beam. However, what made Zhou Jie and the others feel strange was that when the light beam shone on the ground, it didn't leave a single mark on the ground. Although this was the case, Zhou Jie and the others weren't stupid enough to think that the light beam wasn't dangerous. After dodging it, they didn't have the heart to fight for the treasure and rushed to the edge of the open space. Luo Feng and Razif chased after Veronica, while Razif fled alone in another direction. The mountain giant's eye was still sweeping the light green light beam. Everyone present was blessed by it and hurriedly dodged. However, in the end, there was still one person who couldn't completely dodge the light beam. His left leg was swept by the light beam. That person was climbing up the mountain at that time. After his left leg was swept by the light beam, he suddenly lost his footing and fell down. When that person fell to the ground and stood up on his left leg, the light green light beam swept over him again. This time, it swept over his entire body. When everyone escaped to the top of the mountain, they finally had the time to check on that person's situation. When they saw that the person who was swept by the light beam was standing motionless, everyone was shocked. They turned around and hurriedly continued to run for their lives. When they reached the top of the mountain, there were some rocks for cover. Zhou Jie and the others quickly found a place to hide. Seeing this, the mountain giant finally stopped shooting the gray-green light beam. It let out an extremely dull roar, bent its legs slightly, and leaped forward with all its might. Thinking back, it had been 10 years since he was willing to finish reading Love 5 today. Time really flew by. Inspired by Zhuge Dali's character, he decided to officially start leveling up after a period of time. The main reason was that the epidemic was very serious now, so many things were inconvenient. Once he changed for her. Now he truly changed for himself. However, no matter how much he practiced martial arts, he would only be himself. 2022-12 Chapter 159. The mountain giant jumped up and landed on the top of the mountain where Zhou Jie and the others were standing. Since it was a continuous mountain range, the distance between the peaks was very close. Therefore, the mountain giant's feet landed on two platforms at the top of the mountain. Between its legs was the peak that Zhou Jie and Luo Feng had just jumped off. Boom! When Zhou Jie and Luo Feng reached the bottom of the mountain, they heard an earth-shattering sound behind them. It was as if the mountain behind them had collapsed, and the ground beneath their feet shook violently. However, the more it was like this, the more the two of them didn't dare to look back. They were afraid that the mountain giant would catch up to them if they stopped for even a moment. Therefore, they rushed forward with all their might. Simultaneously, they moved in a zigzag direction, afraid that they would be hit by the mountain giant's laser beam. At this moment, the two of them understood that the mountain giant was chasing after Veronica. They were being chased by the mountain giant because they were following Veronica. Then, Zhou Jie remembered that Veronica didn't ask for help when he saw them earlier. He probably knew about this and didn't want to get them involved. However, Luo Feng had already said that he would catch up with Veronica and get to the bottom of it. Moreover, they were all on the same side, and Luo Feng was equivalent to the leader of this team in the Star Sword Alliance. Naturally, it was impossible for him to leave Veronica alone in danger. Zhou Jie and Veronica also had some friendship. With his temperament, he would naturally do the same. Since Veronica had been running for a long time, the 6 Xian mark on his forehead was flickering. This was the mark's warning, indicating that there was less than 10% of the mark's energy left. Because the mountain giant had stopped in the middle of the clearing for 2 seconds, Veronica was more than 200 meters ahead of Zhou Jie and Luo Feng. This was also because he had sensed that the mountain giant had stopped and slowed down. The slower he was, the less energy he would use. Veronica didn't have much energy left to use. However, now that the mountain giant was closing in on them again, Veronica couldn't help but turn around and look. To his surprise, he saw Zhou Jie and Yi Ci following behind him. He couldn't help but frown. At the same time, an indescribable feeling welled up in his heart. After giving it some thought, Veronica decided to reduce his speed even more so that Zhou Jie could catch up to him as soon as possible. In less than half a minute, Zhou Jie and Li Yundong appeared on Veronica's left and right sides respectively. "Why are you following me? Hurry up and leave, I'm its target." As soon as Zhou Jie caught up with them, Veronica also sped up and walked side by side with them, shouting at the same time. "How did you provoke this mountain giant?" Luo Feng ignored Veronica's words and asked him a question instead. "It was an accident. I was hunting a strange bird and found a strange little mountain. It was covered in veined patterns, so I went up to investigate. Who knew that the little mountain would suddenly shake? I quickly jumped down and found that the little mountain stood up and transformed into the creature that was chasing me. It's called the mountain giant. Senior brother, do you know it?" Veronica quickly transmitted his voice to Zhou Jie and Luo Feng. "All right, we don't know much about the mountain giant either. We only heard about it from the people from Skysea Cosmic Nation. They probably know some information about the mountain giant. At that time, they were the fastest to escape." Luo Feng replied with a frown. After listening to the conversation between Luo Feng and Li Yundong, Zhou Jie glanced at the 6 Xian mark on Veronica's forehead and immediately transmitted his voice to the two of them. "Veronica, you're just putting on a brave front. Your mark's energy is running out. You should have asked us for help earlier." Veronica heard this and frowned even more. He replied with a voice transmission, "I don't want to drag you guys into this. The mountain giant is too scary. It's not something that you and I can fight against. I can't even hurt it. If this continues, we won't be able to escape. Let's try fighting it together," Luo Feng immediately said. He then took the lead to decelerate. A dark red scimitar appeared in his hand as he turned around and took the initiative to pounce on the mountain giant. "You don't have much energy left. Go first." Seeing this, Zhou Jie hurriedly transmitted his voice to Veronica. He also decelerated and turned around. Stepping on the golden lotus sword, he flew close to the ground towards the mountain giant. Thump, thump, the mountain giant did not run very fast, but its steps were really big. Therefore, with the speed of Zhou Jie and the others, it was impossible for them to outrun it. At this moment, Zhou Jie and Luo Feng turned around and charged towards the mountain giant. In less than a breath's time, the two of them had arrived near the mountain giant's foot. Hong! Luo Feng's blade chi turned into a rainbow as he slashed at the mountain giant's ankle. However, it only left a white mark. It was not even close to breaking the mountain giant's skin. On the other side, Zhou Jie stabbed the side of the mountain giant's ankle with the golden lotus sword. He even used his hand to increase the power of the golden lotus sword. However, the golden lotus sword only pierced less than 10 centimeters into the mountain giant's foot. With the mountain giant's huge size and the thickness of its skin, Zhou Jie did not even need to think to know that the golden lotus sword could not even pierce through its skin. The mountain giant basically ignored Luo Feng and Luo Feng's attacks. It paused and tried to kick Zhou Jie and Luo Feng. After failing to kick them, the mountain giant ignored them and continued to chase after Veronica. Veronica originally wanted to slow down to check the situation. However, when he sensed the movement behind him, he immediately sped up and ran for his life. He had already fought with the mountain giant before, and the conclusion he reached was that doing anything other than running away was futile. When Luo Feng saw that the mountain giant had ignored him and chased after Veronica, he was shocked and angry. He immediately chased after the mountain giant and used his martial arts technique. He performed his strongest attack and slashed at the mountain giant's neck. With Luo Feng's strength, even if they were at the same level of energy, his attack was still much stronger than Veronica's. This time, his attack finally cut through the mountain giant's skin, which was the weakest part of the mountain giant. It was as if a rock had been carved out of the mountain giant's skin. The skin of the wound was cut off, revealing the dark green blood tissue within. Roar! Such substantial damage finally caused the mountain giant to feel pain. It stopped and turned to look at Luo Feng. At the same time, Zhou Jie also attacked with all his might. He continuously stabbed the mountain giant's superficial wound, and finally, the golden lotus sword pierced 1/2 meter into the mountain giant's body. Dark green blood spurted out from the wound. The mountain giant couldn't help but feel the pain again. It quickly turned around to face Luo Feng and Zhou Jie. Following that, the mountain giant's single eye lit up and shot out a beam of light. Zhou Jie and Luo Feng immediately circled around the mountain giant's feet to dodge the attack. As the mountain giant kept turning its body, the mountain giant's movement speed couldn't keep up with Zhou Jie and Luo Feng's movement speed. However, Zhou Jie knew that this wasn't the way to go. It was almost impossible for them to seriously injure the mountain giant. If they didn't run away, they would run out of energy and eventually die. The only way was Zhou Jie had an idea. Energy burst out from the mark on his forehead, and he fully activated the golden lotus sword array, transforming it into the invincible form of the golden lotus sword array. "Brother Luo, let's split up and run for our lives after this attack. I'm confident that I can escape," Zhou Jie said to Luo Feng telepathically. Rumble! The golden lotus sword array flashed out and pierced the mountain giant's single eye like a bolt of golden lightning. Zhou Jie's 6 mystic marks had reached the peak of the Samsung Star Lord level. Therefore, even if the Golden Lotus Sword Array lost its effect, he still had enough power to activate the Sword Array and perform the ultimate state of the Flying Sword, one line tied. The Golden Lotus Sword Array pierced the mountain giant's single eye. Since the beam itself had almost no power, it didn't cause any pressure to the Golden Lotus Sword Array. The Golden Lotus Sword Array didn't slow down at all and pierced the mountain giant's single eye in the blink of an eye. Pfft! This time, a light green liquid spurted out of the mountain giant's single eye. Seeing this, Zhou Jie felt as if he could hear the sound of the Golden Lotus Sword Array piercing through the mountain giant's single eye. He was relieved and tried his best to recall the Golden Lotus Sword Array while running to the other side of the mountain. Roar! The mountain giant's roar was so deep that it seemed to make the world tremble. Zhou Jie knew that the mountain giant was infuriated this time. It would definitely chase after him, and that was exactly what it wanted. Zhou Jie jumped onto a mountain nearby. Although the mountain giant's single eye was pierced, the core of the eye wasn't damaged, so it didn't pose much of a hindrance to the mountain giant. After resting for more than a second, the mountain giant locked onto Zhou Jie, roared again, and chased after Zhou Jie. Chapter 160. Zhou Jie leaped to the top of the mountain, and the mountain giant leaped up as well. Its huge body crashed onto the top of the mountain. However, as the mountain giant was falling, Zhou Jie had already jumped down the mountain. He raised his speed to the limit and ran all the way. The mountain giant leaped again, wanting to jump in front of Zhou Jie. However, as soon as Zhou Jie sensed the mountain giant's movement, he changed direction and ran to the right. Therefore, after the mountain giant landed, not only did it fail to close the distance between it and Zhou Jie, it was even pulled further away by Zhou Jie. Roar! The mountain giant let out a low roar and continued to chase after Zhou Jie. At the same time, it shot out a beam of light from its single eye to block Zhou Jie's path, forcing Zhou Jie to continuously move forward. On the other side, Luo Feng stood on a mountain peak and watched the mountain giant chase after Zhou Jie. In the end, he sighed and shook his head before turning to meet up with Veronica. Luo Feng did not go to save Zhou Jie because Zhou Jie said that he was confident in escaping. Secondly, he knew that even if he chased after him, it would be of no help. The mountain giant had been angered to the extreme by Zhou Jie and was on the verge of going crazy. Right now, no one could fight it head-on. Boom! 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 2 minutes had passed, and Zhou Jie was still running for his life. The mountain giant chasing after him had indeed entered a frenzied state. It kept slamming its hands on Zhou Jie's path. As a result, every time Zhou Jie flashed a few dozen meters away, the place he had been at before would be swept away half a second later. The mountain rocks were shattered, and the flat ground caved in as if it had been hit by a meteorite. It's about time. Zhou Jie felt that after running so far and Luo Feng did not chase after him, he should be the only one left in the vicinity. He believed that even if there were people along the way, they would run far away when they saw the mountain giant going crazy. Come out, Kakashi! Zhou Jie jumped down from a mountain peak. At the same time, he teleported Kakashi out of the space ring. But Zhou Jie was in midair when he grabbed Kakashi. Kakashi had just appeared and did not know what was going on. Seeing that he was in midair, he hurriedly shouted, "Ah! Jocko, what's going on?" "You'll find out soon." Zhou Jie's feet and the ground as he shouted Zhou Jie's feet. But right after that, the ground started to tremble, accompanied by a terrifying low roar. Boom! The mountain ridge jumped on top of the mountain, causing the top of the mountain to be shortened by several dozen meters. The movement produced was as loud as thunder. "Oh my God, Jocko, what the hell is that?" Kakashi was carried by Zhou Jie on his shoulder with one hand. He was facing Zhou Jie from the front, so he could see the situation behind Zhou Jie. When Kakashi saw the mountain giant's terrifying figure, He could not help but ask. After Zhou Jie landed, he continued to run forward. Carrying Kakashi did not slow him down at all. That's the mountain giant. I called you out to deal with it. Use the laser to shoot it. Zhou Jie shouted at Kakashi. What, me deal with it? Jocko, isn't this decision too hasty? Why don't we keep running? Kakashi saw the mountain giant on the ground, and the sand and stones on the ground were flying. It was so terrifying that his face could not help but become distorted. He tried to negotiate with Zhou Jie, but Zhou Jie simply told Kakashi, "You can't escape. Only you can defeat it. It can't hurt you. Just use the laser to shoot its eye." Zhou Jie had seen the power of Kakashi's laser eyes. Even if one attack could not do much damage to the mountain giant's eye, it would definitely do some damage. Kakashi had the purple crystal as his energy source, so his laser attacks were endless. No matter how powerful the mountain giant was, it could not outlast Kakashi. Kakashi still wanted to say something, but Zhou Jie did not give him the chance. He threw him forward and shouted, "It's up to you." Why is my life so hard? Kakashi screamed and somersaulted on the ground. As soon as he got up, Zhou Jie flew past him. The mountain giant chased after him, and stomped on him with its huge foot. Seeing this, Kakashi was so scared that he quickly shot out laser beams from his eyes, aiming at the mountain giant's single eye. The mountain giant did not care about Kakashi at all. At this moment the laser flashed, and it felt a burning pain in its eye. It could not help but roar again. It stopped and looked down. Oh my God! Kakashi saw the mountain giant looking down at him. It seemed to be completely fine after being shot in the eye. He could not help but scream again and turn around to run. When the mountain giant saw that it was a mini person who had injured its eye, it could not help but roar angrily. It sped up and stomped forward. Kakashi's running speed was much slower than Zhou Jie's. The distance between them was shortened in the blink of an eye. It looked like he would be trampled by the mountain giant in 2 more steps. Zhou Jie had already slowed down. He turned around and looked at Kakashi. Seeing that he was still running, he suddenly had the urge to turn around and kick him. Although the mountain giant's attack was at the level of a 5-star lord, it was obviously impossible for it to hurt Kakashi. Even so, Kakashi was scared to death. Zhou Jie was really speechless. Boom! The mountain giant stomped on the ground less than 50 meters behind Kakashi. Kakashi felt the ground shake violently as if it was going to bounce him off the ground. He couldn't help but let out another scream. Then, he had no choice but to turn around and shout, I'll kill you! Bayubiu, Bayubiu, Bayubiu. Kakashi's eyes kept shooting out laser beams, all of which hit the mountain giant's single eye. The mountain giant only felt a small burning pain in its eye after the first attack, and its footsteps slowed down slightly. The second attack hit near the landing point of the first attack and completely penetrated the thick membrane on the surface of the mountain giant's single eye, causing a small amount of eye fluid to splatter out. The mountain giant's optic membrane was also damaged, and it lost a small part of its vision. The third attack hit near the landing point of the second attack, causing more damage than the second attack. The mountain giant instantly leaned back and turned around. Naturally, it also stopped moving forward. I'll shoot, I'll shoot, I'll shoot, I'll shoot. Kakashi's eyes seemed to have turned into laser guns in an instant, shooting out laser beams one after another. The mountain giant was in so much pain that it turned sideways and began to retreat. Pew, pew, pew. The laser beams hit the mountain giant's hard and thick body, leaving bloody holes, in fact, only the surface of the skin. The mountain giant continued to feel pain and gradually felt a trace of fear. However, at this time, the mountain giant's anger surpassed its fear. After taking 3 small steps back, the mountain giant suddenly roared and shot out another thick laser beam from its single eye. This time, it was different from the one Zhou Jie saw before. This time, the color of the laser beam was different. It was crimson. Boom! Unlike the light green laser beam from the mountain giant's single eye, the crimson laser beam exploded with terrifying power. Wherever it passed, even the void rumbled and the air was distorted. Boom! The crimson laser beam plowed through the ground, leaving a long and deep hole in the ground. It also seemed to have a great suction force that prevented the broken rocks from flying away. Instead, they were sucked into the beam, including Kakashi. As soon as he turned around and tried to run, he was sucked back by the crimson laser beam. Seeing how terrifying the crimson laser beam was, Zhou Jie could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Even when the mountain giant was enraged by him and chased him for so long, it did not use the red laser beam even once. This showed that he had underestimated the mountain giant's strength. If the mountain giant had used the red laser beam when it went berserk, Zhou Jie did not know if he would have been able to dodge it. Whoosh! Zhou Jie dodged to the side and quickly outflanked the mountain giant from the side. On the other side, the crimson laser beam from the mountain giant's single eye disappeared, and Kakashi was thrown to the ground. Ouch! It hurt so much! Kakashi patted his butt and stood up. He was naked, but his skin was intact. At his tailbone, a dark purple law imprint was glowing faintly. Hey, my clothes and pants! Ugh, I've changed 2 sets of clothes this month. Kakashi let out a miserable cry. Then, he looked at the mountain giant and his eyes lit up once more. I'm angry. The consequences are serious. Chapter 161. As soon as Kakashi's voice trailed off, blue lasers shot out from his eyes and hit the mountain giant 200 meters away. The mountain giant seemed to have weakened a lot after releasing the crimson light beam. Even the surface of its body had decreased a lot. Under the continuous attack of Kakashi's lasers, its body was bleeding profusely. It was a ghastly sight. Zhou Jie was overjoyed when he saw this. At the same time, he confirmed his guess. The mountain giant must have paid a high price to release the crimson light beam. Otherwise, it would not have used it in such a situation. And now, it seemed that the price was much higher than Zhou Jie had expected. Zhou Jie chose to turn around and flank the mountain giant because he considered that the mountain giant's strength would be greatly reduced after releasing the crimson light beam. He could cooperate with Kakashi and counterattack. Perhaps they could really kill the mountain giant. At the same time, the mountain giant did not expect that its ultimate skill would have no effect on Kakashi at all. At that time, it was terrified. It regarded Kakashi as an existence that it could not afford to provoke, so it immediately turned around and tried to escape. Roar! The mountain giant turned around and took a big step forward. At the same time, it let out a low roar of pain. Because Kakashi was still shooting lasers, its back began to become full of holes. Soon, it was dyed red with blood. At this moment, Zhou Jie had already circled around to the mountain giant. Without caring about the energy consumption, he once again controlled the golden lotus sword to pierce the mountain giant's eye with the invincible sword formation. The mountain giant's eye was badly damaged and had lost most of its vision. Its movements were completely dependent on its eyesight, so its perception was very poor. Therefore, when Zhou Jie controlled the golden lotus sword to attack its eye, the mountain giant did not see it until the golden lotus sword appeared in front of its eye. Since the golden lotus sword was already in front of its eyes, there was no reason for it to miss. It immediately pierced the mountain giant's eye. This time, it pierced through the wound, so the resistance was much lower. The golden lotus sword sank into the eye, and a large amount of light green unknown liquid splashed out of the eye. Roar! The mountain giant seemed to have suffered a fatal blow. It immediately let out a painful roar, and its huge body fell forward. Boom! The 200-meter-tall mountain giant crashed to the ground with a loud bang, as if the mountain had collapsed. The instant it landed, a terrifying explosion erupted, causing the ground within a kilometer to crack open. A huge depression was left in the center of the impact. Zhou Jie retreated 100 meters. He was still dizzy from the terrifying sound of the fall and the shock wave. He couldn't help but crouch down to stabilize himself. It seemed like a few seconds had passed before the terrifying sound of falling to the ground completely dissipated. Only some dust was still floating in the air. After the mountain giant fell to the ground, it stopped moving. Zhou Jie waited nervously for more than 10 seconds. Seeing that the mountain giant still didn't move, he couldn't help but frown slightly. Just as he was about to go over to take a look, Kakashi had already run over with his hands covering his private part. Jocko, is this big guy dead? Kakashi came to Zhou Jie's side and asked, his little face red. I'm not sure. I'm going to confirm it. Zhou Jie shook his head. Then, he glanced at Kakashi's private part covered with both hands and curled his lips slightly. He took out a set of his own clothes from the space ring and threw it to Kakashi. Wear mine. You only bought 2 sets of clothes. Back on Dragon Pulse Planet, Zhou Jie went to a clothing store with Kakashi to commemorate his departure from the assassin career. He thought that he would be able to wear a few sets of casual clothes in the future. Who would have thought that Zhou Jie basically didn't wear many of them now? He was already used to wearing the nether armor. Oh, Kakashi responded and hurriedly put on Zhou Jie's clothes. However, they were much too big. After putting on a long-sleeved top, Kakashi didn't even need to wear pants. Zhou Jie didn't have time to pay attention to Kakashi putting on his clothes. He had already moved to the mountain giant's side and climbed onto its back. After taking a few steps on the mountain giant's back, Zhou Jie was thinking about how to deal the finishing blow. He was afraid that the mountain giant wouldn't die, when suddenly, the mark on his forehead lit up automatically and began to change form. It released an incomparably pure energy that poured into his limbs and bones. The mark has leveled up. Zhou Jie could not help but exclaim in surprise. Then, he was overjoyed. It seemed that the secret plane had determined that he had killed the mountain giant, causing his mark to level up. 7 kill mark. Zhou Jie excitedly jumped down from the mountain giant's back. Kakashi, who was only wearing a shirt and holding a pair of pants, ran over. When he saw the glowing mark on Zhou Jie's forehead, he could not help but exclaim, "Wow, Jocko, where did the mark on your forehead come from? It's so beautiful." Zhou Jie heard this and thought for a moment before replying, "This is a symbol of strength in the secret plane." Then, Zhou Jie looked at Kakashi and said, "It's all thanks to you again, Kakashi." When Kakashi heard Zhou Jie praise him, he was so happy that his eyes narrowed. However, he waved his hand and said, Jocko, don't praise me anymore. I'll get proud." Zhou Jie was stunned for a moment before nodding slightly. "All right, then I won't praise you in the future." Kakashi. A few minutes later, Zhou Jie was running alone to the empty space below the sword in the clouds. He guessed that after the mountain giant chased them away, there would definitely be people who would return there to snatch the remaining treasures. Although Zhou Jie had obtained 1 treasure, it was not suitable for him. Naturally, he wanted to obtain more treasures. Therefore, he chose to return to the empty space to take a look. Who knows, there might still be a few treasures left. When Zhou Jie returned to the top of a mountain next to the empty space, it had already been nearly 20 minutes since he left the empty space. 20 minutes might not seem like a long time, but to those who returned quickly after the mountain giant left, it meant that they had been snatching treasures in the empty space for more than 10 minutes. One must know that when Zhou Jie, Luo Feng, and Harry obtained treasures one after another, it only took them slightly more than 2 minutes. 10 minutes. Zhou Jie could not help but worry that the remaining 6 treasures had already been snatched away. However, when Zhou Jie stood at the top of the mountain and looked at the empty space, he saw that there were only 6 people snatching treasures there, and 5 of the original 6 treasures were still flying in the air. Why is there only 1 missing? It shouldn't be that bad, right? Why isn't Harry here? With his strength, it should be easy for him to get another treasure, right? When Zhou Jie saw this, he suddenly had a lot of doubts in his heart. Rasif isn't here either. Although he obtained one treasure, he shouldn't give up on another one, unless… Zhou Jie was still very smart and quickly thought of a possibility. I also obtained a treasure. I'll try to get another one and I'll know the reason. Zhou Jie thought to himself as he leaped down the mountain and entered the empty space. Unexpectedly, when he saw Zhou Jie enter, someone quickly recognized him. That person actually laughed and said to Zhou Jie, "You've already obtained a treasure, right? Then don't waste your time. If you want to get a second treasure, you'll be attacked by the sword slashes continuously. You won't have a chance at all." "Oh, so that's how it is?" Zhou Jie immediately understood. However, he had already guessed it, so he did not find it strange. When one of the people from Skycy Cosmic Nation saw that someone had reminded Zhou Jie of this, he could not help but scold. What he meant was that telling Zhou Jie to suffer a little, why didn't he just let him suffer a little? He might even be able to kill him. Harry and Rasif had both tried to get a second treasure, but they were continuously attacked by the sword slashes. Both of them could not withstand it and quickly escaped from the empty space, saving their lives. Moreover, Rasif did not know the reason. Harry actually knew that it would be difficult to get a second treasure, but he still wanted to try. When he entered the empty space for the second time, he wanted to get a second treasure. In the end, he escaped from the empty space again in a sorry state and suffered heavy injuries. After that, Rasif left the area around the empty space, presumably to recover from his injuries. Zhou Jie casually waved his hand and shattered some of the sword slashes that attacked him. He then looked at the surrounding mountains and saw that Harry was looking at him from the top of one of the mountains. Then, Zhou Jie said to the person who had just reminded him, "Thank you for the reminder." Then, his gaze fell on the few treasures flying in the sky. Although he knew that it would be difficult to get a second treasure, Zhou Jie now had the 7 kill mark. The 7 kill mark gave Zhou Jie a completely different upgrade from the previous mark. It was like a qualitative change. The moment he fully possessed the 7 kill mark, Zhou Jie knew that he was invincible in the Arcana territory for the time being. Chapter 162. Seeing that Zhou Jie didn't intend to withdraw, the person who reminded Zhou Jie shook his head and expressed helplessness towards Zhou Jie's behavior. The treasures in the sky flew for a long time, and finally, a long sword flew down and flew towards the ground. Zhou Jie thought that everyone would swarm up at the first moment, but the result was beyond his expectations. Everyone flew obliquely towards the location where the long sword fell, and even 2 people who were closer to the landing point of the long sword flew back dozens of meters. This situation made Zhou Jie stunned, and he didn't rush towards the long sword at the first moment. Then, Zhou Jie knew why everyone did this. Swish, swish, swish. A rain of sword light followed the long sword and fell, covering a radius of 100 meters with it as the center. When it approached the ground, it flew up again. And Zhou Jie was a little surprised by this, but he quickly reacted. Perhaps it was because after the number of treasures decreased, the difficulty of seizing treasures also increased. Therefore, at this time, every treasure that flew down would cause a rain of sword lights. Moreover, looking at the power of this rain of sword lights, it was even more powerful than the golden rod. But after understanding this, Zhou Jie was not afraid, and immediately flashed out, his speed reaching the extreme. What? A few people who were close to the long sword treasure before Zhou Jie saw a blurred figure passing by, and was 1 step ahead of them to within 30 meters of the long sword. How is he so fast? Everyone was shocked, because Zhou Jie's speed was beyond their understanding. Even if they had the 6 Xian marks, their speed was at least 30% slower than this. However, although Zhou Jie was fast, there was something faster than him, and that was the rain of sword light attacking Zhou Jie. Yes, it was a rain of sword light attacking Zhou Jie, formed by the convergence of countless sword lights, almost turning into a solid substance, piercing towards the top of Zhou Jie's head. Zhou Jie had been warned, so he was prepared for this, but when the rain of sword light really came, Zhou Jie's expression changed slightly. This power was indeed a little terrifying. Rumble! The rain of sword beams fell on Zhou Jie's head, and Zhou Jie was only a dozen meters away from the sword. But no matter what, Zhou Jie still had to deal with the rain of sword beams before he could obtain the sword. Boom! There was a loud explosion. It was Zhou Jie's punch that collided with the rain of sword light above his head. Something that left everyone dumbfounded happened just like that. The terrifying rain of sword beams that should have forced Zhou Jie to retreat was actually broken by Zhou Jie's punch. That's right, break it with a single punch. It meant that it was like a rain curtain. If the middle and lower parts were removed in an instant, it would make the rain curtain suddenly break. Zhou Jie had blasted the part of the sword light rain that was close to him into pieces, which caused the sword light rain to seem to break in an instant. What? How is this possible? Oh my God! Everyone present exclaimed because this scene was too shocking. They were all aware of the power of the rain of sword beams. Previously, Harry and Razif had tried to resist it. In the end, they managed to block it at first, but they could not withstand the continuous attack of the rain of sword beams and could only flee in defeat. They were chased out of the open space by the rain of sword beams. For Zhou Jie to break a part of the rain of sword beams with a punch was completely beyond common sense. But this was not the end. The second half of the rain of sword beams followed closely, but it was also shattered by Zhou Jie's punch and turned into fragments that filled the sky. Whoosh! After finishing the first wave of sword light rain, Zhou Jie flew towards the long sword again, grabbed it in his hand and began to refine it. The second wave of sword beams was only about a second apart, and it was already attacking Zhou Jie's head. Under everyone's shocked gazes, Zhou Jie broke a part of the rain of sword beams with a punch, then another part with a punch, then another part with a flying kick. Just like that, Zhou Jie fought and retreated. In less than half a minute, he successfully left the open space and jumped to a mountain top. Only then did the crowd react, but none of them dared to believe that this was true. He got the second treasure? Oh my God, why is he so strong? He even got the second treasure. His strength is too terrifying. Could it be? Could it be the 7-kill mark? Someone already has the 7-kill mark so quickly? Everyone present guessed in their hearts. They were all shocked by Zhou Jie's terrifying strength. At the same time, they were also glad that Zhou Jie did not intend to attack them just now. Otherwise, it would really be, after Zhou Jie refined the long sword treasure on the mountain top. He tried to activate it, but found that the long sword treasure was also restricted by the Arcane Territories rules and could not unleash its original power. He gave up and put it away in his space ring. Then, Zhou Jie looked at the few treasures in the air above the open space, and wondered if he could still obtain one more. If the difficulty of getting the third treasure is increased, even if I have the 7-kill mark, I might not succeed. But no matter what, I still have to try. If I succeed, it'll be a great reward. This treasure is definitely not an ordinary rune soldier, Zhou Jie thought to himself. He decided to recover the energy he had just consumed and adjust his condition before entering the open space to get the third treasure. After a few minutes, the sword in the clouds in the sky suddenly stopped absorbing energy and went into a silent state. Even the countless sword beams floating in the open space disappeared instantly. Oh no, time's up. Let's go. The people from the Skysea Cosmic Nation were the first to react. They did not care about how unhappy they were for not getting any treasures after such a long time. They turned around and ran out of the open space. When the others saw this, they realized that something was wrong and immediately turned around to leave the open space. Zhou Jie was slightly shocked when he saw this. He immediately sighed. He knew that the sword in the clouds was about to return to its previous state. The power of the sword array on the open space would increase. Although Zhou Jie had the 7 kill mark, he was not arrogant enough to think that he could enter the open space to get the 3rd treasure after the sword array's power was restored. That would be a joke. There were still 10 days before the sword array's power weakened again. Therefore, Zhou Jie planned to leave and search for treasures elsewhere in 10,000 Treasures Ridge. After 9 days, he would come back and try to get the 3rd treasure. Zhou Jie first found his way back to the place where he found the purple tree. See chapter 28 of this volume, Sword in the Clouds, for details. This time, Zhou Jie's strength had increased greatly and he planned to try to break the array again. Of course, breaking the array depended on one's understanding of the array. However, even if one understood the array, one still needed a certain amount of strength to break it. Moreover, if one had enough strength, the array could be broken by brute force and force. Although Zhou Jie did not know much about the array, he had tried to break through the array before. He had a certain understanding of the operation of the array. Back then, he felt that if his strength increased a little, he would be able to resist the attack of the array and enter the purple tree at the core of the array. Therefore, when Zhou Jie arrived this time, he stepped directly into the array. The array was immediately activated. The energy on the ground surged, causing Zhou Jie to retreat quickly. At the same time, waves of energy intertwined and strangled him. Zhou Jie burst out the energy of the mark and dodged to the side. He tried his best to avoid the attack of the array's energy, but at the same time, he moved forward faster than he moved backward. When Zhou Jie approached the center of the array's power completely erupted and turned into a wave of energy that was about to sweep him away. Zhou Jie's expression changed slightly. He poured out all the energy in his body to resist, but he was still pushed back dozens of meters. After being pushed back, Zhou Jie did not dare to stop. He suddenly rushed forward again. He wanted to rush to the core of the array before it exploded again. He believed that it was safe there. In the end, Zhou Jie arrived under the tree. The array around him calmed down and soon returned to its original state. Zhou Jie looked carefully at the purple tree and found that there were 4 dark purple fruits growing on it. Without saying anything, Zhou Jie took out a special jar and put the 4 fruits in it. After that, Zhou Jie left and began to explore new places. 10 days later, Zhou Jie came to the open space where the sword in the clouds was. He tried to seize the 3rd treasure, but it ended in failure. The difficulty of seizing the 3rd treasure was twice as high as the 2nd. Zhou Jie tried his best, but he could only run away pathetically. In the blink of an eye, more than 2 months passed. During this time, Zhou Jie searched for treasures all around and made some gains. On this day, Zhou Jie was walking through a red mountain range. Suddenly, white fog filled Zhou Jie. Soon, Zhou Jie's consciousness blurred. Holy Road. When Zhou Jie regained consciousness and saw that the scene in front of him had become a wide dark green road, he could not help but think. Chapter 163. Zhou Jie looked at the seemingly endless greenish-gray road and couldn't help but turn his head to look behind him. What surprised Zhou Jie was that there was a cliff less than 3 meters behind him. It was foggy, and he couldn't see what was below the cliff. It was the same on Zhou Jie's left and right. There were cliffs 3 meters away, and white fog floated everywhere. Faced with such an environment, no one would choose to jump off the cliff. Naturally, they could only walk on the greenish-gray road ahead. Zhou Jie didn't think too much about it and started walking forward. However, he still maintained his vigilance. According to the information, the tests on the Holy Road were unpredictable and were different for everyone. Some had to fight against metamorphosed beasts, some had to resist pressure, and some had to break through barriers. Of course, this wasn't everything, but Zhuo Qiuhong only knew these. His test back then was to fight against metamorphosed beasts, and it was extremely dangerous. However, when Zhou Jie stepped onto the holy road, he didn't realize that the 7-kill mark on his forehead flashed slightly. Then, the white fog on both sides of the holy road began to thicken. Zhou Jie took 5 or 6 steps forward before he noticed the change in the white fog on both sides. He couldn't help but look around as he walked forward. The holy road wasn't wide. Zhou Jie was walking near the center. There were only 3 meters of greenish-gray road on both sides, and further away was a bottomless abyss. The white fog floating above was gradually getting thicker as it approached Zhou Jie. Zhou Jie was wondering if the metamorphosed beast was transformed from the fog, and couldn't help but raise his vigilance. The white fog had already spread around him and quickly swallowed him. Zhou Jie's body tensed up, but he continued walking forward, and even quickened his pace. The white fog obstructed Zhou Jie's vision to the point where he couldn't see anything more than 3 meters away. Only then did it stop becoming thicker. At the same time, Zhou Jie suddenly widened his eyes in shock. He was shocked by the sudden change in his surroundings. The changes that Zhou Jie felt in the environment did not come from the environment itself, but from the fact that Zhou Jie's perception had increased by 1,000 times in an instant. It was as if a short-sighted person suddenly had the terrifying eyesight of an eagle. Originally, he couldn't see the words on a book from half a meter away, but now he could see the hair of a person from 1,000 meters away. How could this be? Zhou Jie was puzzled by this seemingly inexplicable change. He couldn't help but stop in his tracks, using his suddenly skyrocketing perception to carefully scout out the area within a radius of several hundred meters. Originally, this was a subconscious action of Zhou Jie, but in the end it made Zhou Jie stunned again. While Zhou Jie was trying to perceive, the clouds on both sides of him began to emit glamorous halos, which were perceived by Zhou Jie. That was also why Zhou Jie was stunned. It wasn't until a long time later that Zhou Jie finally came back to himself. He had a better understanding of the halos. Is this the law of elements? The halos in the white fog were in fact specific substances and energies. Those substances and energies were so tiny that they could barely be sensed even with the mental power of a beginner Star Lord. However, at this moment, Zhou Jie's mental senses had been significantly improved, and he sensed those substances and energies clearly. Those substances and energies were needed to produce fire, water, wood, earth, metal, and so on. Those substances existed in nature in the first place, and the corresponding energies were the combination of those basic substance units into specific forces such as fire, water, and steam. That was the essence of the so-called law of elements. Generally speaking, when the high-level Star Lords had enough mental power, they could control the laws of elements freely and carry out the unbelievable power of nature by gathering sand into towers and trees into forests. Even the best of the low-level Star Lords could perform a domain with the paramount state and demonstrate the power of the law of elements. For example, Veronica's paramount state was able to affect the temperature and humidity of the environment, which was essentially the manipulation of the law of elements of water. For Zhou Jie, it was the first time that he had sensed the wonders of the law of element. It was as amazing as a modern man who suddenly grasped a divine technique. He found it hard to believe. This feeling is truly amazing. Zhou Jie sensed the halos on both sides carefully, only to discover that the changes were quite complicated. Although they were only a part of the halos, Zhou Jie, who had never touched the law of elements before, couldn't stop thinking about it. After standing where he was for a minute, Zhou Jie finally came back to himself and sensed that there were more halos further ahead. He couldn't help but continue walking forward, trying to sense those halos. Just like that, Zhou Jie forgot the time and lowered his vigilance as he walked. He was almost entirely immersed in the perception of the halos. To Zhou Jie, the elemental laws were simply too fresh and mysterious. Zhou Jie was like a person who had been thirsty for a whole day and was faced with an ocean of delicacies. He greedily craved and sensed the elemental laws and couldn't stop at all. However, during this period, Zhou Jie involuntarily wanted to control the law elements several times, but he discovered that there was a mysterious power suppressing him, causing him to only be able to comprehend and not use it. That's it? As Zhou Jie walked, he suddenly realized that he had finished comprehending all the halos. There were no more halos ahead. At this moment, Zhou Jie collected his thoughts and looked straight ahead at the same time. The greenish-gray road extended forward for about 100 or 200 meters before it widened. However, due to the lack of light, Zhou Jie couldn't see the specific environment clearly from where he was. However, Zhou Jie saw the changes in the road ahead and had a guess. He immediately leaped forward and arrived at the widening part of the Holy Road in less than 2 breaths. The widening part of the Holy Road was actually a circular platform with a diameter of about 100 meters. It was quite wide. Zhou Jie sized up the platform and found that it was empty. Just as he was puzzled, a black stream of air descended from the gray sky and landed right in front of him. Zhou Jie immediately took out the blade of Cadiz to be on guard. However, his pupils suddenly shrank as he discovered something that surprised him. The sealed power in his body had been completely unsealed in an instant. Silently, the black stream of air that landed 10 meters away from Zhou Jie transformed into a slender man wearing black combat clothes. This man's appearance was strange. He wore a mask and helmet that resembled a black cat, which made him look terrifying. His hands were equipped with 3-bladed wolf fangs and claws, which gave off a murderous vibe. The power of the mark has been sealed. At the same time, Zhou Jie tried to use the power of the 7-kill mark, but he discovered that he could no longer use the mark's power. At the same time, his perception was reduced to the normal level of his original strength. He couldn't help but be shocked. Immediately after, the masked man in front of Zhou Jie raised his head and looked directly at Zhou Jie. Zhou Jie thought that they were going to fight, but a thought directly rang in his mind like a voice. First of all, you are the successor of the first generation. First of all, congratulations on being selected as an inheritor. Since Master created this place, you are the second person to be selected as an inheritor. I admire your talent and ability, but Master's requirements for inheritors are also very harsh. The first person to be selected as an inheritor has failed, but you don't have to worry. This place is different from other tests. Failure will not result in death, but your memories will be altered. You will enter the Inheritance Temple, where you can choose a secret technique or treasure to leave. As for the benefits of success, there is no need to talk about them. All the inheritances left behind by Master will be yours, including us. Next, if you are ready, come and defeat me. Then, you can continue to move forward. But there are rules for the battle here. When you are attacked and can't resist, the mark on your forehead will release energy to help you offset the excess damage. Once the energy of your mark is depleted, you will fail the challenge. Just like before, you have a total of 1 epoch to continue the challenge. You will only be considered to have succeeded if you collect 6 sealing stones within the specified time. Zhou Jie knew that this was the black cat masked man in front of him transmitting his thoughts to him. When he roughly understood what the other party was saying, Zhou Jie also knew what his test on the Holy Road was. The only question was, what the hell was 1 epoch? Zhou Jie guessed that it was probably the 3+ months he had experienced in other places before. I am Mountain Cat. Are you ready to challenge me? At this time, the masked man in front of Zhou Jie transmitted his thoughts again. Chapter 164. Zhou Jie hesitated for a moment. Then, he suddenly thought of something and asked, "Oh right, how do I defeat you?" Link seemed to smile when he heard that. His mouth that was not covered by the mask moved slightly. Then, a blue light suddenly lit up between the eyebrows of his mask. Zhou Jie took a closer look and found that it was a crystal blue bead. Before it lit up, Zhou Jie had overlooked it because it was embedded in the pure black mask. Do you see this sealing stone? It works the same way as your mark. If you hurt me, the sealing stone will consume its energy. When the light of my sealing stone disappears, it means that its energy is exhausted and I lose. Lynx answered Zhou Jie's question telepathically. So this is the sealing stone. Zhou Jie heard that and could not help but think to himself. Then, he nodded. Okay, I got it. Let's fight. As soon as Zhou Jie finished speaking, Lynx flew back. The 3 claws in his hands rubbed against each other. Then, he got into a fighting stance and said to Zhou Jie at the same time, as you wish. Come on. I forgot to remind you that leaving this platform is also a failure. Moreover, falling into the abyss outside the platform will have more serious consequences. Zhou Jie held his sword and slowly approached Lynx. At the same time, he spat out 4 words, thanks for the reminder. Swoosh. Then, Zhou Jie suddenly rushed forward toward Lynx. He wanted to take the initiative and gain the upper hand with a strong attack. However, Lynx reacted quickly. He attacked with an underhook and just happened to break Zhou Jie's forward slash. Zhou Jie had no choice but to change his move quickly. He jumped over Lynx's head and turned around to slash behind him as he landed. Lynx took advantage of the situation and pounced forward, dodging Zhou Jie's slash. He turned around and pounced. His claws pierced through the air continuously and pressed down on Zhou Jie's head. Zhou Jie raised his saber to block, but he was forced back a few steps by Mountain Cat. After stopping his retreat, he immediately turned around and charged at Mountain Cat with a diagonal slash. The distance was too close, and the Mountain Cat couldn't dodge in time. It hurriedly used its paws to block in front of its body and was forced to retreat. Under Zhou Jie's last heavy chop, the Mountain Cat's feet brushed against the ground and almost flew out. However, Zhou Jie did not feel the slightest bit of joy when he saw this. Just from the exchange of blows just now, he could tell that his opponent's combat ability was very strong. His reaction speed was astonishing and his moves were also extraordinary. Most importantly, he was very skilled. After sending Lynx flying, Zhou Jie did not stop for long. He rushed forward to catch up with Lynx. He urged his energy to burst out with a saber light, wanting to take advantage of this opportunity to severely injure Lynx. However, Mountain Cat's ability to adapt was no less than Zhou Jie's. He flipped backward 2 times in a row to reduce the momentum and suddenly jumped up, just in time to avoid Zhou Jie's strongest attack. Zhou Jie had no choice but to draw an arc with his saber and change its direction to where Mountain Cat landed behind him. In the end, although the saber hit the ground, it was still blocked by Mountain Cat's paws. It only shook him and made him roll on the ground. Pah! While Mountain Cat was still rolling, he slapped the ground and flew up. He spun in the air and landed firmly on the ground. At this time, Zhou Jie had already attacked again. However, Mountain Cat flashed his hand and threw out a black light. Like a sharp arrow, it instantly hit Zhou Jie's raised elbow in front of his chest. Pooh! With a muffled sound, Zhou Jie only felt a huge force coming from his elbow. However, his whole body involuntarily fell backward. At the same time, the 7-kill mark on Zhou Jie's forehead flashed. The moment Zhou Jie fell to the ground, he clearly felt that the mark's energy had lost a portion. It was about 1/10 of the mark's energy. Oh no! Zhou Jie fell to the ground and felt that something was wrong. He quickly rolled and got up. However, he was not attacked by the black light again as he expected. However, Mountain Cat had already pounced on Zhou Jie again. His claws split the air in an exquisite arc, and the light of his claws appeared along the way. At this time, Zhou Jie had just recovered from the attack of the black light. He did not dare to take it head-on. He quickly tried his best to dodge, narrowly avoiding the attack. Mountain Cat was not going to let him go. He stabbed his claws again. Zhou Jie stabilized himself and immediately waved his saber to meet the attack. The two of them fought for dozens of rounds and were on par with each other. It was the first time that Zhou Jie had encountered such a terrifying opponent in a real battle in recent years. After the pure clash of weapons, Zhou Jie interrupted the opponent's stickiness and stepped back. Then, his energy burst out, and he slashed out his saber, causing thunder to rumble. It was the ultimate level of saber techniques, lightning destruction. Back when he fought Sammy and Li Yao in the Bloody Forest, Zhou Jie had already perceived the ultimate level of his saber technique. However, his strength was limited at that time, so he could not perform the ultimate level. At this moment, Zhou Jie unleashed his full strength and performed the ultimate level, planning to defeat his opponent. Mountain Cat also unleashed his strength. From the previous battles, it could be seen that his strength was on par with Zhou Jie's. It was the same at this moment. It seemed that the basic strength that he demonstrated was calculated according to Zhou Jie's strength. He thrust out his claws, but he did not perform the ultimate level. Ping! An intense collision was about to break out. Zhou Jie and Mountain Cat both trembled, but neither of them was willing to back off. They both launched attacks to suppress each other. Therefore, after a series of collisions, Zhou Jie finally gained the upper hand after performing Universal Shift with the ultimate level. He was gradually able to break Mountain Cat's attacks and hurt him occasionally. The sealing stone on Mountain Cat's forehead quickly faded from the original blue color. Then, it began to fade from the top and kept dimming downward. It was obvious that Mountain Cat would be defeated as soon as it dimmed to the bottom. Seeing that he couldn't resist Zhou Jie's attacks anymore, when the sealing stone was half dimmed, Mountain Cat launched an attack after a few rounds of preparation, blowing away Zhou Jie and retreating. Naturally, Zhou Jie would not give Mountain Cat a chance to catch his breath. He immediately pursued him, trying to exhaust the energy of Mountain Cat's sealing stone. But what happened next made Zhou Jie almost dumbfounded. Mountain Cat placed his paw in front of his chest. Gray energy flowed on his paw. Then, he waved his paw downwards. The gray energy instantly surged throughout his body. Then, Mountain Cat disappeared. Yes, he suddenly disappeared, as if he had evaporated into thin air. Zhou Jie was wondering what was going on. Suddenly, he heard the sound of something breaking through the air in front of him. He immediately blocked it with the blade of Kadi's. However, he suffered a heavy blow. His whole body was almost sent flying. He couldn't help but take a dozen steps back. After a moment, Zhou Jie realized that Mountain Cat didn't disappear into thin air. He was invisible. The attack just now was launched by Mountain Cat after he was invisible. Damn it, how could this be? Even someone as calm as Zhou Jie couldn't help but curse. He stood up vigilantly in front of him, afraid that the invisible Mountain Cat would attack again. However, after more than a second, the expected attack didn't come from the front. Instead, there was the sound of something breaking through the air from behind Zhou Jie. The attack came from behind Zhou Jie. Zhou Jie quickly turned around to block. He chose the best way to block completely based on his body's reaction. In the end, he was still broken through by Mountain Cat's combo. An invisible paw attacked Zhou Jie's shoulder. Zhou Jie took the opportunity to retreat far away to avoid being hit by the combo. However, what surprised Zhou Jie even more was that Mountain Cat's attack on him this time was accompanied by a dark gray law energy. When Zhou Jie noticed the law energy wrapped around his body, he was wondering what it was. Suddenly, the law energy exploded. Bang! In an instant, Zhou Jie only felt his body shake violently. His whole body actually floated a few meters into the air, accompanied by a wave of dizziness. Bang! Then, Zhou Jie fell hard to the ground. The energy of the 7-kill mark on his forehead had dropped to the bottom. Oh no! Zhou Jie had just recovered from the shock. His reaction was also very fast, and he quickly rolled on the ground. Sure enough, the invisible mountain cat's paw hit the ground where Zhou Jie had just been lying, splashing sparks. Then, it attacked Zhou Jie again. Zhou Jie got up with all his might, but it was too late to dodge. He could only hastily block. However, Mountain Cat used a powerful combo this time. Zhou Jie couldn't completely block it. In the end, his defense was broken. The paw hit his head, and he fell to the ground. At the same time, the 7-kill mark on his forehead flashed and disappeared. Then, it completely turned gray, indicating that the mark's energy had been exhausted. Zhou Jie recovered and realized that he had already lost. He couldn't help but be stunned. He actually lost just like that. It was obvious that he had gained the upper hand after using his ultimate state and was about to win. However, Mountain Cat suddenly went invisible. Moreover, his attack was accompanied by such an overpowered effect, causing him to lose in an instant. It was indeed difficult for anyone to accept this. "You've lost, challenger." As if mocking Zhou Jie, Mountain Cat undid its invisibility and appeared in front of Zhou Jie, speaking indifferently. "I wonder if anyone has played Shadow Combat before. I'm just waiting to be ridiculed." Chapter 165. Zhou Jie was silent for a moment, then he stood up and asked the Mountain Cat, "What was that move you used just now? Why was it able to blow me away?" For some reason, the Mountain Cat could understand Zhou Jie's words, but he still replied to Zhou Jie telepathically, "That's the magic attached to my weapon." Magic? Zhou Jie could not help but be shocked. Why did this sound like a fantasy novel? There was even magic? The Mountain Cat saw that Zhou Jie was shocked, so he continued to answer Zhou Jie's question. Magic is a term from Master's hometown. In essence, it's still law. Zhou Jie was deep in thought when he heard that. He had doubts in his heart again, but he did not delve into it and quickly put it aside. At this moment, the Mountain Cat looked at Zhou Jie and suddenly said telepathically, "Your actual combat ability is very strong. This is what Master admires the most. Therefore, you will also discover that in the following tests, the requirements for your actual combat ability will become higher and higher. Just now, I only won against you because of the magic that Master bestowed upon me. I believe that if you fight again, I will definitely not be your mat. However, the opponents you will face in the future will be even stronger. Feel the mystery of the elemental law well. It will make you stronger." Elemental law. Zhou Jie murmured after hearing that. He thought about the halo he had felt along the way and suddenly had a thought. When your imprint's energy is automatically replenished, you can challenge again. "Let me know when the time comes," the Mountain Cat said one last sentence, then turned around and went to the center of the platform, sitting there with his legs crossed. Zhou Jie glanced at the Mountain Cat and did not pay any more attention to him. Instead, he began to recall the various realizations he had while walking the holy road. The imprint's energy is recovering so slowly. At this rate, I'm afraid it will take a few days to fully replenish. In other words, every time I fail a challenge, I have to wait a few days before I can challenge again. After thinking for a while, Zhou Jie sensed the energy recovery speed of the 7-kill mark on his forehead. He could not help but frown. Knowing that the next challenge would be at least a few days later, Zhou Jie wasn't in a hurry to pass the test in front of him. Instead, he calmed down a lot and began to recall his understanding of the elemental laws, as well as the battle with the Mountain Cat. Combining his current situation, he pondered how to improve his combat strength. Occasionally, Zhou Jie would make gestures or practice when he thought of some points. Sometimes, when he suddenly figured out a point, Zhou Jie would immediately demonstrate it on the spot in surprise. However, Mountain Cat had been sitting cross-legged in the middle of the platform with his eyes closed the whole time. During this period, he didn't pay any attention to Zhou Jie. Nearly 3 days had passed, and Zhou Jie's imprint energy had been restored to full, but Zhou Jie was still comprehending and was not in a hurry to challenge Mountain Cat. It's about time. Finally, after a practice, Zhou Jie walked toward Mountain Cat with the blade of Cadi's in his hand, ready to fight. Mountain Cat only opened his eyes when he sensed Zhou Jie approaching. He stood up and looked at Zhou Jie. Are you ready? Come on. This time, Zhou Jie was very straightforward. He directly got into a fighting stance and said, As you wish. Mountain Cat immediately got into a fighting stance and confronted Zhou Jie. He was not in a hurry to make the first move. Whoosh! After 2 seconds of stalemate, Zhou Jie suddenly burst forth. With a single slash of his blade, he unleashed a supreme-level technique, Lightning Annihilation. Mountain Cat also suddenly pounced, his claws turning into a bright light. He wanted to take Zhou Jie's attack head-on. However, Zhou Jie's flashing Thunder Annihilation had a little more variation than before. The power within it was perfectly controlled and deduced by Zhou Jie. It actually displayed a hint of the universal shift. When the saber arrived, its power was restrained. When the saber changed its angle, its power also changed accordingly. Pung! Zhou Jie split Mountain Cat's claws with his blade and forced him to retreat. The defense in front of his chest was completely lost. Zhou Jie took the opportunity to close in. His blade flashed continuously, and a series of terrifying attacks suppressed Mountain Cat. Mountain Cat resisted with all his might, but he kept retreating. Soon, his chest and waist were slashed a few times, and he was sent flying. This series of attacks caused the sealing stone on Mountain Cat's forehead to flicker a few times. Then, it rapidly dimmed and dimmed by more than half. Lynx rolled on the ground, and then stood up again with a carp flip. Zhou Jie attacked again, and Lynx launched a dark ray attack. However, Zhou Jie was prepared this time. He leaned his body and dodged the dark light. Cadi's blade pressed forward, forcing Mountain Cat to retreat again. After retreating to a certain distance, Mountain Cat raised his claws again and was about to swing downward. However, Zhou Jie seemed to have expected it. The Golden Lotus sword flew out directly, and the sword turned into a rainbow on the way. Pung! Mountain Cat had no time to hide and hurriedly defended against the Golden Lotus sword. However, he was directly pierced by the Golden Lotus sword and fell heavily to the ground. Then, Zhou Jie descended from the sky, and the Cadi's blade slashed at Mountain Cat. Mountain Cat got up and dodged, but it was no different from a dying struggle. Soon, he was hit by Zhou Jie's blade, and the sealing stone completely dimmed. As the sealing stone lost its energy, Mountain Cat turned into a black stream of air and disappeared in the blink of an eye, leaving only the sealing stone on his forehead. Ta! Mountain Cat's sealing stone fell to the ground and made a crisp sound. Zhou Jie was about to pick it up, but the sealing stone suddenly emitted a blue light and floated up automatically, and floated to Zhou Jie's palm. Zhou Jie stretched out his left hand and waited for the sealing stone to land steadily in his left palm. After the light disappeared, he could not help but frown in confusion. Then, he tried to sense the sealing stone. After sensing nothing, Zhou Jie put it into the space ring. After staying in the same place for a few seconds, Zhou Jie saw that nothing had happened, so he left the platform and continued to walk on the gray road ahead. However, when Zhou Jie entered the road, the power that belonged to him was instantly sealed and could no longer be used. The energy of the 7-kill mark began to flow into his body again, and at the same time, his perception increased by 1,000 times. Zhou Jie anticipated the changes in the environment, so he began to walk forward calmly. As expected, soon clusters of halos appeared in the white fog on both sides of the road. Zhou Jie hurriedly sensed with joy and was soon immersed in it. Just like the previous time when he sensed the halos, Zhou Jie forgot about time and kept walking forward slowly until the halos disappeared, and a platform appeared in front of him a few hundred meters away. Well, it probably took less than 2 days, Zhou Jie said after he finished his comprehension. Although he did not deliberately calculate the time during the comprehension process, Zhou Jie could still feel that it took less than an hour to comprehend each halo, and the total number of halos did not exceed 30. Therefore, Zhou Jie calculated that the time spent should not exceed 2 days. The reason why Zhou Jie began to care about time was naturally because the test he was facing now was only slightly more than 3 months. Previously, it took him about 5 days to obtain the mountain cat's sealing stone, and he still needed to collect 5 more sealing stones. After that, it would take more time to obtain the sealing stones. Zhou Jie did not dare to delay too much. For example, even if he was trying to comprehend the halos this time, he tried his best to speed up and reduce unnecessary thinking. He thought that he could think about it during the cool-down period after he failed the challenge. Not long after, Zhou Jie walked to the edge of the platform. The platform was empty, so Zhou Jie took a few steps forward. After waiting quietly for 2 or 3 seconds, Zhou Jie found that his power had returned, and the energy of the 7-kill mark was imprisoned. At the same time, a gray stream of air descended from the sky and landed about 10 meters in front of Zhou Jie. It quickly transformed into an old man wearing a bamboo hat. This old man's face was full of wrinkles, and his gray face was somewhat frightening. His face was very ordinary, and his eyes seemed to be a little dull. He had an inch-long white beard on his chin, and he wore a gray battle suit. He held a pair of pale white swords in his hands, and he looked inexplicably like an immortal. Successor, first of all, congratulations on coming here. I'm Hermit. Next, I might be able to teach you a lesson. This voice rang in Zhou Jie's mind. Zhou Jie knew that the old man in the bamboo hat was talking to him, and his eyes turned slightly cold. Might be able to teach him a lesson? Then he would wait and see. Do you want to start your challenge? Hermit asked Zhou Jie. His expression was very calm, and he gave off an unfathomable feeling. Zhou Jie took a small breath and adjusted his inexplicable nervousness. Then, he opened his mouth and said calmly, "Come." Chapter 166. After receiving Zhou Jie's affirmative answer, Hermit leaped back and landed lightly 30 meters away. He faced Zhou Jie and assumed a stance with his 2 swords spread out. His voice was slightly old and hoarse. Then, let's start class, young man. Zhou Jie leaped forward and came to a position more than 10 meters in front of the hermit. He also assumed a posture, and his eyes were piercingly cold. This was the first time he had seen someone so arrogant and refined. Next, he wanted to see if the other party really had the strength to teach him a lesson. However, just as this thought flashed through Zhou Jie's mind, Hermit attacked him without any warning, stabbing his sword straight at his left knee. Hermit's sword was very fast and without any warning. Even with Zhou Jie's reaction speed, he almost didn't have time to block with his saber. In the end, he relied completely on his instinctive reaction. Zhou Jie slashed down with his saber and retracted his left foot at the same time, barely blocking Hermit's sword. This caused the sword in his right hand to stab less than half a meter to the left of his left knee. Zhou Jie immediately focused 120% of his attention to deal with the attack. As for Hermit, he stabbed out with his right sword from bottom to top. His target was Zhou Jie's chin. Zhou Jie retreated to block as Hermit followed up. The sword in his right hand stabbed out again. Zhou Jie had no choice but to retreat half a step to block as Hermit took another step forward and stabbed out with his left hand. Seeing that there was no end to this, Zhou Jie immediately slid to the side and slashed out with Cadi's blade. While blocking Hermit's sword, he also slashed at Hermit's chest to force him to defend himself. Hermit had no choice but to defend himself. However, what made Zhou Jie's pupils constrict was that Hermit's use of the 2 swords was like an extension of his arms. He defended himself with his right hand, and it was completely natural. It was as if he was doing the most simple action, giving off the illusion that he was neither fast nor slow. However, his speed was just right to block Zhou Jie's strike and easily push it to the side. Zhou Jie's saber was provoked, but he did not dare to attack again. Instead, he forced himself to retreat, wanting to increase the distance between them and readjust his combat state. However, Hermit took a step forward. His footsteps were light and steady, as though he was taking a stroll in the park. However, he closed in on Zhou Jie and attacked with his two swords. His attack was more than twice as powerful as the sword thrust at the beginning. Zhou Jie was taken aback. At this moment, he really felt a lot of pressure. Just from these few seconds of attack and defense, he could tell that Hermit was very strong. His combat skills were clearly stronger than anyone he had fought before. However, Zhou Jie could not pinpoint what made Hermit so strong. Why was his swordsmanship so casual, and yet so oppressive and powerful? This was something that really left Zhou Jie puzzled and shocked. However, the stronger the opponent, the more fighting spirit Zhou Jie had. He had always been used to meeting strong opponents and becoming stronger. Only a high-pressure battle could bring him greater improvement. Boom! Therefore, in the face of Hermit's two swords, Zhou Jie erupted. He slashed out with the blade of Cadiz as his saber aura turned into a rainbow. At the same time, he used cosmic transference. Seeing Zhou Jie erupt, Hermit's two swords condensed a sword beam at the last moment. He clashed fiercely with Zhou Jie, causing a terrifying force to sweep out. At the same time, saber beams and sword shadows constantly intersected. Clanging sounds could be heard incessantly. Ping, 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 ping. With Zhou Jie's strength, slashing out more than 10 times a second wasn't a problem. It was the same for Hermit. Furthermore, Hermit was using two swords. Therefore, their battle formed a dense net of light in front of them. From time to time, a few powerful blasts would burst out. They could even blast stone walls apart. It was obvious how fierce their battle was. It had to be said that Hermit's attainments in the use of two swords were unimaginably high. His ability to wield his swords with energy was almost at the pinnacle. Zhou Jie was initially at a disadvantage by relying on his more powerful explosive attack. However, after more than 100 exchanges, cosmic transference gradually revealed its exquisite effects. In addition, Zhou Jie was much more familiar with Hermit's sword moves. He began to gradually suppress Hermit and gain the upper hand. Hermit also sensed that Zhou Jie's attacks were becoming more and more intense. However, he didn't neglect his offense or defense. It made it difficult for him to find a breakthrough point to unleash a decisive strike. If this continued, he would almost certainly lose. Zhou Jie relied on cosmic transference to launch an even more suicidal attack on Hermit. Soon, Hermit showed signs of being unable to withstand it. He began to converge his sword momentum and leaned toward defense. Zhou Jie continued to strengthen his attacks. He seemed to be going all out with his saber, but in fact, he was still holding back for a reversal. "You're not bad." Hermit suddenly sent a voice transmission to Zhou Jie as he began to retreat. When Zhou Jie saw this, he wanted to press forward and launch a killing blow with the Golden Lotus Sword Flower. However, even though Hermit had retreated, he was still resisting his attacks and could counterattack at any time. This made Zhou Jie not dare unleash his killing blow. This was because he needed a very strong space to unleash his attack. The instant he unleashed his attack was also when his defense was at its weakest. Without repelling the enemy, it was impossible for experts to unleash their full strength in a battle. It was as though Zhou Jie's momentary flash of thought had caused a slight delay in his attack. Hermit had actually chosen to unleash his attack. He crouched down and stabbed at Zhou Jie's calf. Zhou Jie was alarmed. As Hermit's sword was long, if he were to continue using his previous saber momentum, he would definitely be attacked by Hermit's foot. Then, although he was confident that he could slash Hermit's back or shoulder, he would lose his footing and the might of his attack would be greatly reduced. At the same time, he would lose his follow-up advantage and would definitely be attacked by Hermit. Therefore, Zhou Jie instinctively defended his advance and changed his saber momentum to slash downwards, blocking Hermit's attack. Hermit's attack was blocked, so he retracted his strength midway and retreated. Then, he threw his two-handed sword to his sides and froze in midair. When Zhou Jie saw this, he was puzzled as to what Hermit was doing. Hermit immediately clasped his hands and retracted them to his right waist. His hands lit up with white lightning before he pushed them forward towards Zhou Jie. Rip! The lightning tore through the air. It was so fast that there was no way to dodge it. Even though Zhou Jie hurriedly dodged to the side when he saw it, Hermit's final attack was at an angle that happened to be aimed at Zhou Jie's right abdomen. Oh! When the lightning struck his abdomen, the damage that should have been caused had been absorbed by the mark's energy. However, there was no impact. It still made Zhou Jie involuntarily take 2 steps back. As for the 2 swords beside Hermit, they emitted a faint white glow after the lightning struck Zhou Jie. At this moment, they were gently guided by his fingers as they circled around Hermit. At the same time, the faint white glow on the swords intensified, turning into a circular barrier that encircled Hermit, who was sitting cross-legged. Then, Hermit floated about 2 meters into the air with the barrier. He sat cross-legged with his eyes closed in the lotus child's sitting posture. When Zhou Jie saw that the situation wasn't looking good, he had already conjured his golden lotus sword flower, forming a heavenly tide that surged towards Hermit. However, when the flying swords touched Hermit's protective barrier, a terrifying bright white lightning bolt as thick as a human body suddenly descended, landing on the defenseless Zhou Jie. Boom! Pa! Zhou Jie fell to the ground as the 7 kills mark on his forehead was completely drained of its energy. A strong sense of weakness overwhelmed him, causing him to lose control of the line of heavenly tide. It slammed into Hermit's barrier, but after breaking through the barrier, it deviated slightly and brushed past Hermit's shoulder. Phew! With Hermit's barrier broken, the 2 swords lost their luster. He also very decisively landed back on the ground. He held the 2 swords again with an indifferent expression. On the other side, Zhou Jie was still in a daze. I lost. I was defeated by magic again? When Zhou Jie came to his senses, he couldn't help but feel speechless. He was extremely depressed. At this moment, Hermit stood dozens of meters away and said to Zhou Jie via voice transmission, "Young man, you are indeed very powerful at your stage. The only thing I can teach you in this lesson is that you shouldn't be distracted in a life-and-death battle. Even an extra thought can sometimes cost you your life." When Zhou Jie heard this, he couldn't help but feel even more speechless. However, he still listened to Hermit's words and nodded slightly. He stood up and cupped his fists at Hermit. "I've learned something. I look forward to your dismissal." Hermit didn't say anything else to Zhou Jie. After leaving this voice transmission, he flashed to the center of the platform and sat down cross-legged. Zhou Jie sighed and shook his head. Then, he retreated to the edge of the platform and sat down cross-legged. Zhou Jie had gained quite a bit from his battle with Hermit, especially Hermit's seemingly casual but powerful sword technique. He knew that it was definitely not simple. He needed to carefully ponder over it. Chapter 167. Zhou Jie thought for a long time and finally had some feeling, so he took out the Kadi's blade and began practicing. But in less than half a minute, Zhou Jie frowned and put away the Kadi's blade. Instead, he took out the golden lotus sword and practiced the sword technique in the form of a golden sword. He tried his best to imitate the hermit's swordsmanship. Zhou Jie did not want to imitate the hermit's swordsmanship, but wanted to experience the feeling of the hermit's swordsmanship. It was a wonderful realm. Zhou Jie felt that with his solid foundation, it was very likely that he would be able to master it in a short period of time. Furthermore, he had already begun to touch that realm. After recalling it over and over again, simulating and practicing it over and over again, Zhou Jie finally found the secret of the hermit's swordsmanship. At that moment, Zhou Jie was so excited that his entire body felt numb as if it had been electrocuted. Could this be the so-called unity of man and sword in ancient martial arts? After Zhou Jie's excitement, he recalled some ancient martial arts books he had read in the past and could not help but think to himself. Of course, after Zhou Jie understood the hermit's swordsmanship and could use it, it did not mean that Zhou Jie had perfectly reached the realm of unity of man and sword. After all, the weapon Zhou Jie was most proficient with was still the saber. Every weapon had a significant difference. Although Zhou Jie had now grasped the essence of unity of man and weapon, he could only use it on the saber technique in a short period of time to reach the level of unity of man and saber. As for unity of man and sword or other weapons, he would need a period of hard work to be able to use them like an arm and reach this realm. Next, Zhou Jie took out the Kadi's blade again without saying a word and began to integrate the essence of the saber technique he had just comprehended into his saber technique. Nearly 3 days passed very quickly. Zhou Jie had already practiced the new saber technique of one with the saber to the extreme. He had been waiting for the 7-kill mark to recover completely so that he could fight Hermit again. Therefore, when the time came, Zhou Jie strode over to Hermit. Zhou Jie was just about to speak when Hermit sensed something. He opened his eyes and looked at Zhou Jie. His voice remained indifferent as he said, "Are you ready? Come on." Zhou Jie replied straightforwardly. Kadi's blade was already glowing. Hermit nodded, stood up, and took up a stance again, preparing to receive Zhou Jie's attack. As for Zhou Jie, considering that Hermit had taken him by surprise the last time, he was already prepared to make the first move. He immediately attacked, his saber transforming into a rainbow as he slashed diagonally at Hermit's chest. Hermit immediately reacted. He flipped his sword to block the attack and stabbed straight at Zhou Jie's glabella. Zhou Jie quickly changed his moves and attacked rapidly. His saber technique slashed horizontally, vertically, and crisscrossed. Not only did he perfectly block Hermit's attack, but he also closed in step by step, causing Hermit to lean toward defense after a few moves. Most importantly, Zhou Jie's saber attack was very comfortable this time. His body had an extremely strong control over the strength used on the saber. Although his saber attacks were still extremely fast and fierce, they were more skillful and the speed of his saber attacks was faster. This was also the fundamental reason why Zhou Jie could quickly suppress Hermit this time. Hermit retreated repeatedly, using his footwork and sword moves to destroy Zhou Jie's saber techniques as much as possible. Furthermore, he was using 2 swords after all. In terms of explosive power, he naturally couldn't compare to Zhou Jie, but his defense was extremely powerful. It made it difficult for Zhou Jie to defeat him after a long period of attack. However, as the saying goes, one is bound to lose if one keeps defending. Zhou Jie had to admit that Hermit's swordsmanship was outstanding. Even if he had also reached the realm of man and weapon unity, it would be difficult for him to defeat Hermit in a short period of time. If he were to use a suicidal attack, although he could win the battle faster, there was also a high chance that he would be defeated by Hermit. After weighing the pros and cons, Zhou Jie chose to be conservative and constantly attack in order to ultimately obtain victory. Finally, after nearly 2 minutes of attacks, Hermit was forced to the edge of the platform for the second time. His position was restricted, and he could only move horizontally. With his previous experience, Zhou Jie immediately unleashed a slash, catching Hermit off guard. His sword technique was lost, and he was hit by Zhou Jie's slash. He accelerated and retreated horizontally. Furthermore, Hermit retreated far away. Following that, he let go of his sword and attempted to cast lightning magic again. However, Zhou Jie had experienced it once, so he naturally paid attention and was on guard. As soon as Hermit tried his best to retreat, he cast the Golden Lotus Sword Array and charged over with Heavenly Tide Streak. It seemed impossible to interrupt Hermit's casting of magic. Zhou Jie's Heavenly Tide Streak was right in front of him, but he didn't stop. He had already sat cross-legged and was about to be lifted up by the halo. But in the next instant, the one-line Heavenly Tide bombarded the Hermit's protective light barrier, sending him flying far away and interrupting his spellcasting. Zhou Jie chased after him and mercilessly dealt the finishing blow. Finally, he defeated Hermit, who had lost his 2 swords. Class dismissed. The second Zhou Jie defeated Hermit, he spat out these 2 words. His surging fighting spirit instantly vanished. Hermit turned into a gray stream of light and dissipated. His 2 swords also vanished without a trace, leaving only a dim sealing stone on the ground. Zhou Jie took a few steps forward, and the dim sealing stone immediately lit up with a faint green light and floated towards Zhou Jie. Zhou Jie reached out to take Hermit's sealing stone and stored it in his interspatial ring. He took one last look at the path he had taken before continuing on his path. This time, it was the same as before. Zhou Jie sensed the halos that appeared on both sides and slowly advanced. After more than 2 days, he finally arrived at the 3rd platform. As usual, the moment he stepped onto the platform, Zhou Jie's imprint energy was imprisoned, and his own energy returned. Zhou Jie immediately took out the Kadi's blade and prepared for battle. At the same time, a red stream of light descended from the sky and turned into a fatty wearing a red doo-doo. His semicircular beer belly was exposed, and the red doo-doo was actually the breastplate of the armor he was wearing. It meant that the armor was separated into different parts, and only had the main knee pads, elbow pads, belt skirt, and breastplate. Although this fatty looked bloated and fat, he didn't look greasy at all. His eyes were extremely fierce and terrifying. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised, and his smile was treacherous and very creepy. However, the most terrifying thing was not the fatty's eyes and creepy smile, but the weapons in his hands. They were actually 2 butcher knives. They were the kind of broad-backed short knives that ordinary people used to butcher cows and sheep, or the kind of knives used by butchers who sold meat. Just as Zhou Jie felt a chill in his heart due to his opponent's image, a voice rang out in his mind. It sounded rather ferocious. "Inheritor, I'm the butcher. Are you ready to be slaughtered by me?" Hearing this, Zhou Jie couldn't help but tighten his grip on the Kadi's blade in his hand. If it wasn't for the fact that he knew that he wouldn't die if he lost the battle and that the imprint's energy would reduce the damage during the battle, Zhou Jie felt that he might really be killed by the opponent. "Fight!" Taking a deep breath, Zhou Jie only spat out this one word. His whole body's fighting spirit burst forth and pressed down on the butcher as if it was solid. Because of this, Zhou Jie no longer had a trace of fear. "Kakik!" The butcher let out a terrifying laugh that sounded directly in Zhou Jie's mind. Zhou Jie couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Bang! In the next second, Zhou Jie took the initiative to attack. He stretched out his body and attacked the opponent. Sword technique extreme realm, lightning destruction. Seeing this, the butcher didn't back down and slashed his sword over, colliding with Zhou Jie's sword. Ping! In an instant, Zhou Jie only felt an irresistible force coming from the sword. He couldn't help but use both his hands to block it, but he still couldn't completely offset it in time. His whole body fell backward. The butcher's sword pressed down on the Kadi's blade's body and moved forward. In the end, the Kadi's blade directly pressed down on Zhou Jie's shoulder. In the nick of time, Zhou Jie moved his feet horizontally and forcefully pulled himself away. However, the butcher's sword still slashed across his chest. The imprint's energy on his forehead was reduced by more than 1/10. After this first move, Zhou Jie was simply dumbfounded. The opponent's sword's power was too terrifying. It seemed to be on a different level from the previous two opponents. How was he going to win? Kakik, the butcher's strange laughter rang in his mind again. Because the butcher's strength had shocked Zhou Jie, the fear in Zhou Jie's heart rose again when he heard this terrifying laughter. At this moment, the butcher moved and brandished his two swords to kill Zhou Jie. Moreover, the two swords lit up with a blood-red glow. Chapter 168. Zhou Jie didn't dare clash head-on with Butcher as he hurriedly dodged. It was worth mentioning that although Butcher's attacks were ridiculously powerful, his attack speed was clearly inferior to Mountain Cat and Hermit's. Although it wasn't enough for Zhou Jie to exploit as a weakness, it made it easier for Zhou Jie to dodge Butcher's attack. Seeing that Zhou Jie had dodged his twin sabers, Butcher raised his sabers and took up a stance on the spot. He didn't chase after Zhou Jie as he gave Zhou Jie a provocative smirk. Zhou Jie couldn't help but frown when he saw this. He knew that Butcher knew that he wasn't agile enough and that chasing after Zhou Jie would be futile. Therefore, he chose to wait for Zhou Jie to launch an attack before counterattacking. However, Butcher's strength was truly terrifying. Zhou Jie knew that if he couldn't effectively counter Butcher's moves with his attacks, then even if his attacks were much more exquisite than his opponent's, once their weapons clashed, his attacks would be broken and he would be suppressed by Butcher. Let's give it a try. After a few seconds of confrontation, Zhou Jie analyzed the battle situation and finally made up his mind. He dodged from the side and approached Butcher. Butcher had a sinister and terrifying smile on his face as he revealed his white teeth. His twin sabers were surrounded by a red energy halo as he turned slightly to face Zhou Jie's attack from the side. Swish! Zhou Jie first feinted with his saber, luring Butcher to block with his saber. Then, he quickly changed his position and his saber's momentum rapidly changed as he stabbed straight for Butcher's right shoulder. Although Butcher wasn't as agile, his reaction wasn't slow. He immediately turned his saber upwards and slashed diagonally, just in time to block Zhou Jie's saber. Clang! Zhou Jie was afraid that he would be affected by Butcher's saber's immense force, but Butcher let out a strange laugh as he charged forward. At the same time, he squatted down and slashed his twin sabers at Zhou Jie's feet. Zhou Jie's pupils shrank as he saw this. He had already forcefully flipped backwards, narrowly dodging the attack. However, the moment Zhou Jie landed, Butcher had already sheathed his saber at his waist and shot a black beam at him. Pfft! This black ray was not within Zhou Jie's expectations. What's more, he had just landed, so he didn't have much ability to dodge. He was hit at once, and his whole body rolled on the ground. The impact of the black ray was unexpectedly large. However, because the damage from the black light was absorbed by the 7-kill mark, Zhou Jie himself did not suffer any damage that affected his mobility. The process of him rolling on the ground was also controlled by him as a way to escape Butcher's pursuit. However, the Butcher didn't pursue him. Instead, as a terrifying and strange laughter rang out in Zhou Jie's mind, the Butcher took a deep breath and then suddenly jumped 3 feet off the ground before landing heavily back on the ground. Boom! The sound of a butcher crashing to the ground rang out. Zhou Jie, who had just finished rolling and stood up, was sent crashing to the ground. The 7 kills imprint on his forehead instantly dimmed. Zhou Jie shook his head on the ground, still in a daze. He then touched the 7-kill mark on his forehead with a look of disbelief. He actually lost just like that? What just happened? Butcher jumped on the spot, and the earthquake wave after he landed made his mark disappear? GGG! Butcher's strange cry rang in Zhou Jie's mind again, making Zhou Jie's heart palpitate. Unfortunately, I didn't let you taste my Butcher's saber this time. Next time, I'll definitely let you taste it, GGG. Butcher said in Zhou Jie's mind, his voice like a demon. Zhou Jie felt cold all over. He got up and adjusted his state of mind. Seeing Butcher sitting cross-legged in the center of the platform, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He turned to the edge of the platform and sat cross-legged as well. He began to reflect on the battle with Butcher. But this time, Zhou Jie thought about it and felt that the reason for his failure was that Butcher was too strong. He was simply invulnerable. Speaking of which, he was defeated very quickly. Butcher's terrifying laughter was still echoing in his mind, and his heart couldn't calm down for a long time. After close to 3 days, Zhou Jie's Mark's energy was fully recovered. He immediately chose to battle with Butcher again. This time, he planned to use the Golden Lotus Sword Flower to disrupt Butcher's defense and attack. Again, Zhou Jie flew in front of Butcher and attacked with the Golden Lotus Sword Flower, using the sword formation, Tai Chi Annihilation, to surround Butcher. Butcher immediately stood up with 2 sabers in his hands. He let out a low roar, and the 2 sabers burst out with an astonishing red glow. As he slashed rapidly, the golden swords formed by the Golden Lotus Sword Flower's sword formation were constantly sent flying. Zhou Jie took the opportunity to attack from the side and slashed at Butcher from a tricky angle. It happened to be the gap between Butcher's 2 sabers' defense. Chi. Zhou Jie's saber slashed at a spot about 2 inches below Butcher's armpit. The damage was absorbed by the red sealing stone on his forehead, but the impact still disrupted Butcher's formation, causing him to stagger to one side. Zhou Jie took advantage of the situation and used a series of quick slashes to completely defeat Butcher. Butcher's body was heavy and strong, and he quickly stabilized his body. The red glow from the 2 sabers ignored the remaining golden swords from the Golden Lotus Sword Flower and directly slashed at Zhou Jie with a large force. Boom! Zhou Jie was forced to block, and while he felt a trace of fear from Butcher's tyranny, Butcher's saber slashed at the middle of Kadiz's blade, causing Kadiz's blade to fly out of his hand. Without any suspense, Butcher's saber slashed at Zhou Jie's head. If it wasn't for the mark's damage absorption, Zhou Jie would have been split open from the middle. Pung! Zhou Jie was sent flying and fell to the ground, but he quickly rolled on the ground and stood up. What? Just as Zhou Jie stood up, he realized that his body was surrounded by a red nomological glow. The 7-kill mark's energy, which had been depleted by Butcher's saber, was instantly depleted. Every time the mark's energy was depleted, it would instantly drain all of Zhou Jie's strength. Although it was extremely short, it caused Zhou Jie, who had just stood up, to kneel down again. He had no strength to stand up again. Kaki, you are worse than last time, but this time I finally let you taste my Butcher's saber. How does it feel? Kaki. Butcher's voice sounded in his mind. Zhou Jie's emotions surged as he gritted his teeth. It was rare for him to feel so indignant. I hope that next time you won't be finished off by my saber. That would be too boring. Butcher left these last words before returning to the center of the platform and sitting down. He closed his eyes and remained motionless. After a while, Zhou Jie stood up from the ground. He walked over to pick up Kadiz's blade and kept it in his interspatial ring. Suddenly, he realized something. I'm scared. I'm really scared. It turns out that Butcher's laughter has always terrified me. Coupled with his terrifying strength, I'm so weak. But in fact, I might still be able to put up a fight. More than half an hour had passed since his second defeat. Zhou Jie sat cross-legged on one side of the platform and suddenly muttered to himself. However, he isolated his voice so that Butcher wouldn't hear him. After understanding this, Zhou Jie began to adjust his state of mind. He entered a state of meditation and completely emptied himself. When the mark's energy was replenished again, Zhou Jie was continuously using his martial arts and saber techniques to familiarize himself with an even more powerful combo. Time's up. Zhou Jie sheathed his saber and walked towards Butcher with a cold look in his eyes. Butcher sensed Zhou Jie's approach, and quickly opened his eyes and stood up. He let out a strange laugh and transmitted his voice to Zhou Jie. Prepare to receive your third defeat, a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Zhou Jie's face was as calm as an ancient well. He said coldly, "This time, your saber might not be able to touch mine." When Butcher heard this, his smile became even more terrifying and treacherous. However, he didn't transmit his voice to Zhou Jie again. Instead, he crossed his sabers in front of his chest and stuck out his scarlet tongue to lick his lips. Swoosh. Zhou Jie wasn't in the mood to continue watching Butcher's performance. He immediately launched an attack and aimed his saber at Butcher's face. Butcher suddenly exploded just as Zhou Jie's saber was about to reach his face. He squatted down and slashed his sabers at Zhou Jie's feet. However, Zhou Jie was extremely calm at this moment. His battle thoughts were also exceptionally clear. He had already anticipated Butcher's move. He leaped lightly and slashed at Butcher's head. The Butcher hurriedly reversed his double sabers to block, but Zhou Jie pointed his saber at the Butcher's double sabers and jumped behind the Butcher. He followed up with a sweeping kick, causing the Butcher to stagger. Following that, Zhou Jie took advantage of the situation. He wasn't afraid of Butcher's sabers at all. He lowered his body and supported himself with one hand on the ground. He flew up and kicked Butcher's face as he turned around. Pung! The notebook arrived. The first day of Punching In. 2022-21. Chapter 169. Butcher's head suffered an attack, causing him to lose his balance and stumble backward. Zhou Jie spun on the ground and followed up with a double leg sweep, completely breaking Butcher's balance and causing him to fall to the ground. Butcher squatted and slashed at Zhou Jie, who blocked it with his twin sabers. However, Zhou Jie's attacks were too smooth and flowed smoothly. The first slash was not a forceful slash, but a slash. As Zhou Jie spun, he immediately slashed a second time, a third time, a fourth time. It wasn't until the ninth slash that Butcher finally regained his strength. With a furious roar, he slashed forward with both his sabers. He wanted to take advantage of Zhou Jie's retracting sabers and slashing again to attack Zhou Jie's waist. However, after the ninth slash, Zhou Jie lowered his body to the ground, just in time to avoid Butcher's double slash. Then, Zhou Jie kicked up with all his might, kicking Butcher's lower jaw, causing him to fly into the air. The golden lotus sword flower flew above Butcher's head at the same time, using the sword formation everywhere to pierce and strangle Butcher. 144 golden swords were distributed around Butcher's body, intertwining with each other to form a golden cutting net. They crazily pierced Butcher's body back and forth, but due to the damage of the sealing stone, the golden swords actually brushed Butcher's body and changed their angles to the other side. Roar! Butcher let out an indignant roar, but being in the air and constantly attacked by the golden swords, he could not effectively dodge or defend. The sealing stone on his forehead was rapidly dimming, and in the blink of an eye, it was less than a third. Bang! Butcher finally landed on the ground forcefully. Zhou Jie was afraid that he would be shocked to death by the seismic wave again, so he immediately flew towards Butcher. Upon seeing this, Butcher grinned fiercely. At the same time, he raised his twin sabers and slashed, landing in Zhou Jie's path. Zhou Jie did not stop flying forward or change his moves. Instead, he exploded with all his strength and chose to clash with Butcher's twin sabers. Pung! Zhou Jie was sent flying backwards. The powerful recoil caused the 7-kill mark on his forehead to dim slightly. The Butcher grinned ferociously and wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to catch up with Zhou Jie and slash him. But in the next moment, The back of his head was attacked by the Golden Lotus sword formation, and he fell forward like a dog eating mud. The Golden Lotus sword formation split up and regrouped. It was the Tai Chi destruction of the Golden Lotus sword formation. Due to the haste, Zhou Jie's attack with the Golden Lotus sword flower was only the power of the sword formation. He did not unleash the extreme state, one-line sky tide. Therefore, this attack was not able to completely defeat Butcher. However, everything was under Zhou Jie's control. Now that Butcher had fallen to the ground, he was bound to suffer another round of the Tai Chi annihilation. With the last bit of energy he had left from the sealing stone, he was bound to lose. Everything was just as Zhou Jie had expected. Under the attack of the Tai Chi annihilation, Butcher did not even have time to stand up. With a roar, he knelt on the ground and instantly turned into a red stream of light and disappeared. Only a dull sealing stone was left on the ground. At the same time, Zhou Jie turned over and stood up unhurriedly. He controlled the Golden Lotus sword flower to return to the base behind him and walked towards the dull sealing stone. Just like the previous 2 times, the dimmed sealing stone lit up with red light again and automatically flew into Zhou Jie's palm. Zhou Jie kept it and turned to continue on his path. However, this time, when Zhou Jie stepped onto the greenish-gray path, the 7 kill mark on his forehead changed. The 7 kill mark shone brilliantly and began to change shape. At the same time, a large amount of energy surged into Zhou Jie's body. Moreover, the amount of energy the mark poured into Zhou Jie this time was almost double the amount from before. The 8 desolates mark. Zhou Jie couldn't help but say in surprise. He had originally thought that defeating Lynx and the others wouldn't help with the advancement of the mark. Only now did he realize that it had helped. However, this time, the advancement of the mark didn't bring much joy to Zhou Jie, because he knew that the following battle would be even more difficult. Moreover, he had fought with the strength of a 1-star lord. The advancement of the mark would probably only allow him to take a few more hits. Zhou Jie felt that it was better than nothing. He was still comprehending the elemental laws within the halo. This time, Zhou Jie gained a deeper level of comprehension. It could even be said that he had made a breakthrough. However, Zhou Jie knew that this was because his perception had increased by several hundred times. If he really wanted to use this level of comprehension, he would need to reach the level of a 5-star lord at the very least. As for now, comprehending the elemental laws would only help him strengthen his Lamita realm. It wasn't particularly useful. A few days later, Zhou Jie arrived at the 4th platform. Very soon, a green stream of light descended not far from him and turned into the appearance of a slender woman. The woman was about 1.65 meters tall. She was thin and somewhat petite. She wore a green armor and a silver mask that looked like a wire mesh on her helmet. A light purple sealing stone was embedded in the mask. In addition, the woman held a dark green spear in her hand, which made her look even more heroic. Successor, my name is Wasp. Defeat me and you will obtain the 4th sealing stone. Now, do you wish to begin the challenge? The woman's voice rang out in Zhou Jie's mind. Zhou Jie immediately took out the Kadi's blade and got into a fighting stance. He calmly replied, "Let's begin." Wasp didn't say anything else. She softly shouted in Zhou Jie's mind. She lunged forward and pointed her spear at Zhou Jie. She was ready to fight. Zhou Jie's eyes narrowed. He felt a bit of pressure because Wasp's weapon was a spear. With his rich combat experience, he naturally knew the advantages and disadvantages of weapons, as well as their strengths and weaknesses. As the saying went, an inch longer is an inch stronger. For a true expert who could use a weapon as nimbly as one's own limbs, there would be obvious restraints between weapons. Zhou Jie used a saber, while Wasp used a spear. In terms of weapons, Zhou Jie was at a disadvantage. In addition, Wasp definitely had magic, and her combat ability was definitely top-notch. Naturally, Zhou Jie felt a bit of pressure. However, pressure was also a motivation to improve. After experiencing the previous few battles, Zhou Jie had returned to his peak state. Not only had his combat skills improved, but his mentality was also perfect. Therefore, even though he felt the pressure, Zhou Jie was still extremely calm. He planned to test out his opponent's moves and fighting style first. The battle was about to begin. Zhou Jie swung his saber, and Wasp thrust her spear at the same time. After the two collided, they kept touching and separating as if they were attracted to each other. In a breath's time, dozens of rounds had passed. Zhou Jie wanted to close in on Wasp, but Wasp had the advantage of a weapon. She whipped and stabbed quickly. Zhou Jie was too tired to deal with her. He didn't even have a chance to explode and force her back. Therefore, he was entangled with Wasp's weapon. In fact, it was because Zhou Jie couldn't attack and was stuck by Wasp's attacks. However, with any kind of attack, the opponent would find its weakness after a long time. Zhou Jie was an experienced fighter, and at this moment, he was in his best state. He quickly adapted to his opponent's attack. He changed his steps and spun the Kadi's blade to deflect Wasp's spear. Then, he forced his way forward and slashed Wasp's waist. Wasp couldn't help but mess up her spear and quickly retreat. Zhou Jie took advantage of the situation and attacked with a series of small combos. However, Wasp had the weapon advantage after all. Zhou Jie's combo was received by her spear, so it didn't affect her. It only caused her to be shaken back a few steps. Zhou Jie was not satisfied. He quickly pressed forward and attacked with another round of combos. He wanted to catch Wasp off guard and make her lose her composure. However, at the end of the day, Hornet was still a top-tier expert in actual combat. Immediately, he steadied himself and lowered his center of gravity. Relying on his spear, he unleashed one aura after another, forcefully interrupting Zhou Jie's chain attacks and forcing him to retreat. Zhou Jie had no choice. He took out the golden lotus sword and held it in his left hand. He wanted to use a two-handed weapon to fight his opponent. This way, he could make up for his disadvantage in weapons. Of course, the prerequisite was that he was familiar with the weapon and the opponent's strength was not higher than his. However, just as Zhou Jie was about to do so, Wasp spun on the spot and flew 2 meters into the air. Her body was parallel to the ground, and she stabbed her spear into the ground. Zhou Jie was wondering what the other party was doing. In the next second, he felt a blur in front of his eyes. A burst of force hit him from his chest to his shoulder. His whole body flew out and fell heavily to the ground. The 8 desolation mark on his forehead lost nearly half of its energy. Chapter 170. Although Zhou Jie didn't know how he was attacked, he quickly rolled on the ground and got up. He found that Wasp was already a few dozen meters behind him. What's going on? Zhou Jie couldn't help but be bewildered. Then, he saw Wasp doing the same thing as before. Wasp's entire body spun into the air and its body was parallel to the ground, with a long spear pointed at the ground. Not good. Zhou Jie saw this and rolled to the side without thinking. While Zhou Jie was rolling, he felt an extremely weak fluctuation in the air behind him. This time, Zhou Jie got up and looked at the spot opposite Wasp's position. Sure enough, Wasp had appeared there. Instantly, Zhou Jie understood. The inexplicable attack just now was actually caused by Wasp charging at him at an unbelievable speed. The long spear in Wasp's hand slammed into his chest, causing him to be hit by a huge force and fly backward. The mark's energy had also decreased by half. This showed how terrifying Wasp's attack was. Zhou Jie's mark's energy had now doubled. Only Butcher's heavy slash could cause similar damage, right? After Zhou Jie dodged the second flying attack, Wasp seemed to know that such an attack wouldn't have any continuous effect on Zhou Jie. It stopped flying and raised its long spear to stab at Zhou Jie. Zhou Jie had no choice but to fight. He fought with Wasp for a few hundred rounds. Using his sword and saber, Zhou Jie injured Wasp a few times. However, because he controlled half of the power with his left and right hands and didn't explode, the damage was average. The 4 attacks had only depleted about 1/8 of Wasp's mark's energy. But at the same time, Wasp had also attacked Zhou Jie twice. One was heavy and one was light, causing Zhou Jie's mark's energy to drop from more than half to less than 30%. After another 100 rounds, Zhou Jie finally couldn't take it anymore. He saw an opportunity and launched a sudden attack. He leaped up and stabbed his saber at Wasp's head. Pooh! When the saber hit, Wasp immediately leaned back. Zhou Jie landed on the ground and bent forward. He stabbed Wasp's waist with his sword and then stabbed his leg with his saber. He completely lost his balance and made Wasp fall to the ground. Zhou Jie continued to stab at Wasp's legs with both hands. The sealing stone on Wasp's forehead dimmed continuously, and in an instant, it had dropped to half of its original position. Wasp hurriedly rolled backwards. Zhou Jie hurriedly chased after him. While Wasp was getting up, he sent him flying with a flying kick. Wasp struggled to stabilize his body and stood up again. He thrust his spear forward to block Zhou Jie's attack. But this time, Zhou Jie did not choose to attack at close range. The golden lotus sword flower in his left hand flew out and disintegrated into 144 golden swords, using the sword formation everywhere to pierce and kill the wasps. As Wasp had just gotten up, he was unable to put up a perfect defense in time. After being attacked by dozens of golden swords, the sealing stone dimmed again. But because the attack power of everywhere was too weak, Wasp could easily block all the golden swords after he unleashed his energy and brandished his spear. Zhou Jie did not expect to defeat his opponent with everywhere. He had already rushed forward and used his supreme-level saber art together with the heaven and earth great shift. His saber light turned into a rainbow and slashed at Wasp. Wasp once again unleashed his energy to block Zhou Jie's saber light. In the end, he was forced back half a step. His defense was broken, and Zhou Jie took the opportunity to attack. His saber was ferocious, and it looked like he was sacrificing himself. Wasp faced Zhou Jie with his spear. The two of them fought for dozens of rounds. In the end, Zhou Jie used his body to block Wasp's spear and slashed at the side of Wasp's thigh, interrupting his spear attack. Then, Zhou Jie squatted down and swept his leg, followed by a few side kicks and flying kick. Wasp was almost beaten to the point where he could not fight back. But at the last moment, Zhou Jie unleashed an attack to finish off Wasp. Wasp also unleashed his full strength and stabbed his spear at Zhou Jie's throat. Zhou Jie had experienced a few battles. He could vaguely feel that with the same amount of strength, the damage done to the fatal points was lower than the non-fatal points. He believed that if Wasp's spear pierced his throat, he would probably die. But if his saber landed on Wasp's body, Zhou Jie was confident that he could defeat Wasp. So in a flash, Zhou Jie made a shocking move. Not only did he not dodge Wasp's spear, he even took the initiative to accelerate forward. At the same time, he lowered his chin, sandwiching the tip of the spear between his chin and the top of his chest. At the same time, he changed the downward slash to a straight arm, and with the strength of the 1-inch punch, he slashed the Kadi's blade at Wasp's chest. Purring! Zhou Jie was sent flying by the spear. The 8 desolation mark on his forehead immediately ran out of energy. Zhou Jie immediately lost all his strength and fell to the ground. However, when Zhou Jie got up, he saw that Wasp, who had fallen to the ground, had disappeared. Only a dull sealing stone was left there. I won! Zhou Jie couldn't help but feel excited. At this time, the sealing stone lit up with a faint purple light and flew towards Zhou Jie. Zhou Jie put away Wasp's sealing stone. After thinking for a moment, he walked towards the next platform. When Zhou Jie stepped onto the ash-green path, his body's energy receded like a tide. However, the 8 Desolation Mark's energy was still recovering bit by bit. Fortunately, comprehending the elemental laws only required a strong soul force. Zhou Jie quickly threw away all distracting thoughts and once again immersed himself in comprehending the elemental laws. Zhou Jie adjusted his state of mind and stepped onto the 5th platform. Soon, a flirtatious pink light landed not far from him and transformed into the appearance of a woman. When Zhou Jie saw this woman, his breathing stopped for a moment. He was completely stunned. What a beautiful woman she was! She wore a red ancient dress. Her figure was slim and graceful. Her face seemed to have the most perfect appearance in the world. Her beauty was indescribable and suffocating. Her eyes were captivating red and filled with tenderness. They were extremely moving and soul-stirring. Even though Zhou Jie had once been an assassin and had received specialized training, he still fell for her at this moment. His entire heart trembled from those soul-stirring eyes. Inheritor, a soft and charming voice sounded in Zhou Jie's mind. It was like an electric current coursing through Zhou Jie's body. However, Zhou Jie's eyes widened at this moment. He hurriedly bit the tip of his tongue and woke himself up. However, that numbing voice continued in Zhou Jie's mind. I am a widow. To be able to walk in front of me means that you are very outstanding. I admire outstanding men and also desire to conquer them, or be conquered by them. However, in my life, I have only been conquered by the general. The rest, including the inheritor before you, have all been conquered by me. The widow continued. Her voice was like a maggot in one's bones. It was unbearable and made it difficult for one to calm down. Zhou Jie looked at the widow. His breathing was a little rapid. His expression was very ugly. His brows were tightly knitted, and even his forehead began to sweat. Is this a mental attack? Zhou Jie stared at the widow's deadly face. On one hand, he wanted to look away. On the other hand, he thought that this would allow him to adapt to immunity. He refused to look away no matter what. However, when Zhou Jie realized that the adapt to immunity he thought of was just a psychological comfort to look at the widow's face, his heart trembled. He tried his best to look away, but he found it difficult to do so. Scary. Scary. Zhou Jie thought to himself. His body tensed up, but he inexplicably felt his body heat up. The widow in front of him became even more beautiful. His mind began to be affected. At this moment the widow smiled. Her smile was very faint, but it seemed to be the most beautiful smile in the world. It could disintegrate all calmness and arouse the infinite desire for beautiful things in the bottom of one's heart. It could even make one crazy. Inheritor, do you want to start a battle with me? The widow asked with a smile. In an instant, Zhou Jie felt that his eyes were in a trance. However, the widow was still so beautiful that he could not look away. He even began to lose the ability to think. His thoughts became somewhat slow and sluggish. However, the word battle stimulated Zhou Jie. Zhou Jie began to try hard to recall his purpose of coming here. In the end, he struggled to remember. Chapter 171. No, no. Zhou Jie suddenly shouted, as if he had lost control. Zhou Jie tried his best to recall. Not only did he remember why he had come here, but he also remembered some other people, Yuqi Hongze and Yuan Rong. At that moment, the obsession in the deepest part of Zhou Jie's heart was stimulated, which allowed him to break free from the widow's mental control and refuse to fight her. I can't resist her mental influence. I'll definitely lose if I fight her in this situation. Zhou Jie told himself quickly in his mind, trying his best to stay clear-headed. The widow looked at Zhou Jie with a smile and asked, "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." This time, Zhou Jie's answer was very straightforward. He didn't dare hesitate in the slightest, because he knew that the longer he hesitated, the more likely he would be bewitched again. Who knew what would happen? "All right then. You can tell me when you're ready," the widow said, then turned around and walked to the center of the platform. Zhou Jie felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. He felt that his feverish state had completely calmed down. At the same time, he felt much more relaxed. Zhou Jie glanced at the widow's back. At that moment, he realized that the widow wasn't as enchanting as he thought. He had only been so unbearable because he had been affected by her mental influence. But how can I ignore her mental influence and unleash my full strength? Zhou Jie thought about it from another perspective, but he became worried again. It seemed impossible because mental power couldn't be increased overnight. Even if Zhou Jie spent the next 2 months meditating to increase his mental power, he wouldn't be able to achieve much. It was impossible for him to completely resist the widow's terrifying mental influence. What do I do? Even if I break through to become a 2-star lord, it's impossible for me to increase my mental power to the point where I can resist her mental influence. Zhou Jie racked his brains, but he couldn't come up with a solution. He knew that the fastest way to increase his spiritual power was to increase his cultivation level. This was because the increase in cultivation level was accompanied by the cosmic baptism. It would improve the structure of the body and strengthen the body. At the same time, it would strengthen the brain domain and indirectly greatly increase his spiritual power. For example, at the Star Lord level, every star's mind power increased significantly. The mind power of Samsung Star Lords was so strong that they could completely sense and control elemental laws, while only a few of the Star Lords could use elemental laws with their limiter domains. The difference was 10 times. Zhou Jie thought for a long time but could not think of a suitable way. He thought that the only reliable way was to try to resist the spiritual infection of the widow. Just like when a person was sick, most of the body would produce the corresponding antibodies, gradually resisting the disease and eventually recovering. It was also like training the muscles of the human body. Let the muscles withstand various forces and destroy them. Then, the muscles would absorb the corresponding materials and energy to reconstruct them. After the reconstruction, the muscles would be stronger than before. The same principle applied to the tempering of one's spiritual power. Under the condition that one's spiritual origin was not damaged, one's spiritual power would automatically recover and improve to a certain extent. However, if Zhou Jie wanted to do this, he couldn't just run over and let the widow invade his mind instead of choosing to fight her, could he? How different was that from letting someone perform acrobatics? It was simply a joke. Do I really have to fight her like this? Zhou Jie was helpless. He knew that in his current situation, if he went up and fought the widow, he would be mesmerized from the start and would definitely be easily KO'd. However, if he didn't fight, what else could he do? In the end, Zhou Jie still had no choice but to choose to fight. This first failure was inevitable, but he had to learn as much as possible from it to improve his ability to fight the widow. Zhou Jie flew towards the widow, trying to make himself as cold and ruthless as he had been during the darkest period, eliminating all distracting thoughts in his mind. "Widow, come and fight," Zhou Jie said coldly. "Come on, interesting little man," the widow said, standing up and twisting her slender waist. The charm that could easily make a man go crazy was emitted from her body again. "Oh no, I still can't take it." Zhou Jie looked at the widow and felt that her face was like a goddess descending to the mortal world in an instant. She was so beautiful that it was intoxicating. He couldn't help but gulp, and his whole body tensed up again. At the same time, 2 pink folding fans appeared in the widow's hands. She gently opened them and crossed them in front of her. Zhou Jie felt that the charm that made his heart tremble was even stronger, like a whirlpool that wanted to make him fall into it. Die! Zhou Jie bit the tip of his tongue and slashed out with all his strength. However, he had completely abandoned the subtlety of his moves at this moment. He simply didn't have the heart to perform these moves. Facing Zhou Jie's simple and ordinary attack, the widow smiled sweetly and quickly turned around. Her two folding fans danced elegantly like a dance, but her speed was not slow. The two folding fans rotated with the widow's body and collided with Zhou Jie's blade of Kadi's twice. In an instant, Zhou Jie was pushed back. Then, the widow's whole body lit up with a faint pink light, quickly dodging Zhou Jie's random/forward. She went to the side and rotated her body, and the next second, bang! The speed of the widow's body skyrocketed, and she attacked Zhou Jie like a ghost. Many widows appeared around Zhou Jie. When Zhou Jie saw the widow's shadow, his mind was also trembling. It was difficult for him to resist the spiritual invasion that was strengthened through vision. What was more fatal was that in an instant there were countless extremely soft and charming voices of the widow echoing in his mind, causing his mind, which was already difficult to maintain, to collapse at once. An extreme desire to possess the widow filled Zhou Jie's mind. It was as if his brain was going to explode. At this moment, Zhou Jie completely lost himself. He waved Kadi's blade around wildly, as if he had gone crazy. Zing, 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 zing. Then, Zhou Jie was attacked by the widow's body from all directions. Zhou Jie, who was in a confused state, could not resist at all. Although the widow's attack was weaker than the lynx's, in less than 10 seconds, Zhou Jie was hit by the widow's fan more than 50 times. Finally, the power of the 8 desolation mark was exhausted. Zhou Jie suddenly collapsed on the ground, and the widow's attack stopped. Zhou Jie lay on the ground, and soon felt the heat in his body recede like a tide. His head gradually cooled down, and his consciousness became clear again. He felt a lot more relaxed and comfortable. "You can't do it, stinky brother, I'm looking forward to your next performance," the widow's voice sounded in Zhou Jie's mind again, but this time, the widow only teased him. Then, she walked back to the center of the platform and sat down. Zhou Jie was not in the mood to pay attention to the widow's teasing. He shook his head, afraid that he was not clear-headed enough. Then, he lay on the ground and thought for a long time. About half an hour later, Zhou Jie crawled up from the ground. With a cold face, he walked to the edge of the platform and sat down cross-legged. He began to summarize the experience of the battle just now. Almost 3 days passed quickly. Zhou Jie stood up and walked towards the widow, preparing to start the second challenge. "Widow, let's fight again." Zhou Jie walked in front of the widow. He lowered his head and did not look at her. He only said this. "Okay, then come at me. I hope you can last a little longer this time," the widow said with a charming smile. The moment I took out the 2 fans, the invisible mind corruption began again. Zhou Jie lowered his head and did not look at the widow. Instead, he paid attention to the changes in his body. When the widow activated mind corruption, he suddenly felt a faint desire ignite in his mind, causing his head to heat up. However, if he did not pay attention, he would not have noticed it for the time being. Then, Zhou Jie suddenly raised his head and looked at the widow. When he saw the widow's beautiful face, he suddenly felt his mind go blank. An indescribable visual impact hit him, causing the desire in his mind to rise crazily. "So that's how it is," Zhou Jie thought in an instant. At the same time, he tried his best to close his eyes. However, the mind corruption's effect had already reached a certain level. He was still greatly affected. Then, the widow attacked. Zhou Jie closed his eyes and tried to rely on his perception to capture the widow's movements. However, because he was still affected by the mind corruption and closed his eyes, Zhou Jie's reaction speed and thinking ability were greatly reduced. He was unable to properly defend against the Widow's attacks and instantly fell into a passive situation. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.